Chapter 581, Advance to 6 Edge, Difficulty Finding a Gu Tester. Fang Yuan was a vigilant person. He had always felt that everyone else in this world was unreliable, the only dependable person was himself. Thus, he researched the 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King killer move the moment he obtained it. This killer move was originally created based on the foundation he provided. Furthermore, during these few days, with Mo Yao's guidance, his refinement path attainment was deepening, and his perspective had widened greatly. Right now, he had a great understanding of the concept of 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King. It was clear as water to him. At this moment, he looked at the completed killer move. Without any experiments, he knew that this killer move was close to perfection. Mo Yao had reduced many supplementary Gu worms from the original base, while keeping the core and the 6 zombie Gu unchanged, only adding several supplementary Gu worms in. Sensing the ingenuity of this, Fang Yuan praised endlessly. In his mind, Mo Yao's will explained, this is all thanks to the intention Gu on Pan and Chang. With their experience and insight, I could refine this move to such an extent, we have reached an extreme level of perfection. As long as the time does not exceed 30 minutes, no matter how many times you activate the killer move, it will not accumulate zombie energy in your body and cause zombie speckles to grow. Fang Yuan nodded, knowing that Mo Yao's words were true. This killer move was truly refined to its limits. According to this line of thinking, it had already reached its strongest potential. Unless he added Immortal Gu in the future, or changed the core Gu. But if he added Immortal Gu in, this would destroy the original coordination of the Gu. He would need to reassemble it and the move would become completely different. It would truly be a situation of pull one hair and the whole body moves. If he changed the core Gu, that would be going into another line of thought. The new killer move would be completely different. Rather than calling it 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King, he might as well give it another name. In all, the killer move 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King, be it the core Gu, the zombie Gu or the supplementary Gu, they were being used to their fullest potential. There was no way to refine this further. Even though there were still backlashes from using it, if one exceeded 30 minutes, the zombie energy would cause great damage to the Gu Master's body. If the time was too long, the Gu Master might even turn into a zombie. But this was a problem caused by inappropriate usage by the Gu Master. It could be avoided. The reason was that even if this move was used many times, it would not accumulate the zombie speckles. If the Gu Master activated the move multiple times in a period of time, they could potentially sustain the killer move for a long duration. Except, Fang Yuan was still not satisfied with this huge result. If you have any other ideas to refine this killer move, this Grandmaster here is willing to listen. Mo Yao laughed eerily. At this point, 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King is at its limit. There is nothing to improve. But there is still one part that I am not satisfied with, that is the backlash of the killer move. Fang Yuan said. After the improvement, the current 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King's power has doubled, and the duration has reached 30 minutes. It is sufficient for you to handle anything in this mortal realm. What are you dissatisfied with? You must know, any killer move represents the combination usage of Gu worms. Since it is the use of Gu worms, there has to be weaknesses. A killer move's backlash cannot be avoided, they are only different in terms of severity. This strength path killer move's power is at the top 5 of killer moves in my memory. Don't be too greedy. Mo Yao lectured. Fang Yuan snorted. His potential enemies were Gu immortals, beings who surpassed mortals. With 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King, even if Fang Yuan abandoned his enslavement path, he could still dominate the mortal realm, but it was far from sufficient to deal with Gu immortals. Battling an immortal as a mortal, this aim was too arrogant, it was too much for people to believe. Fang Yuan had no intentions of informing Mo Yao about this. Immediately after, he said, preparedness ensures success, and unpreparedness spells failure. If one day, because of a peculiar situation, I overuse the killer move and become a zombie, what happens? I am also clear that the killer move 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King cannot be improved further, but now, my goal is to resolve this weakness. Mo Yao finally understood Fang Yuan's intention, she sunk into silence. Fang Yuan was young and arrogant, Mo Yao did not expect that he had such a cautious side. To speak the truth, Mo Yao was looking at him in a different light now. This lad, he has talent, resources, and opportunities. He has great perseverance and is able to lower his head when needed. On one hand, he advances bravely, while on the other hand, he is cautious and vigilant, always considering all sides of the matter. This lad, one day, he will definitely shake the world. She was silent for a short time. Soon, Mo Yao said, "It is very troublesome to resolve this backlash. 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King is not an ordinary zombie, the zombie energy is extremely thick. Once the Gu Master transforms, they cannot even use yin-yang rotation Gu. As a refinement grandmaster, is there nothing you can do?" Fang Yuan did not believe her. Mo Yao did not fall for his taunting, she spoke in a calm manner, "I need a rank 5 Gu Master to fully transform into the 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King, after which I will experiment on their body. I need this test subject to cooperate with me fully, and I need to have full control over their condition, in terms of body, mind, and personal experience. These are all important information that I need to consider." Mo Yao did not want to ponder about this deeply as it would expend too many of her thoughts. She used the same method again, planning to use people as experimental fodder. They would replace her thinking and undergo the most crucial steps for her. Fang Yuan frowned, rank 5 Gu Master. And a fully cooperative one. That's right, it would be best if they are willingly doing it. Because if slavery Gu is used to control them, their emotions would be affected, their experience and feelings when turning into a zombie would be ruined. This was troublesome. If Fang Yuan wanted to resolve the problem of 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King, he would need to find a rank 5 Gu Master, and they would need to be cooperative and listen to Fang Yuan, risking their lives to undergo this experiment. Where was Fang Yuan going to find such a person? 3 days later. Central Control Room. From the ink whirlpool, the owner token rose up and flew into Fang Yuan's hands. Activating the refinement path killer move ink transformation once again, 5-edge owner token had transformed into 6-edge. Fang Yuan was both happy and worried. Happy because he had the 6-edge owner token. Once He Lu Lan's owner token becomes 4-edge, he would be able to snatch it and form the 10-edge owner token. With a 10-edge owner token, he could obtain one of Giant Sun Immortal Venerable's true inheritances. An immortal venerable inheritance had a huge attraction to almost anybody. Worry was because Fang Yuan had expended almost all his resources to undergo this 6th ink transformation. In order to accumulate funds, he had sold the immortal Gu remnant recipes again and caused these remnant recipes to have no value left. At the same time, he sold large numbers of rock men, fox groups, wolf groups, Gu worms, and even the precious hairy men in some air bubble fish. Like the rank 4 emotion poetry Gu, golden dragon Gu, golden breeze Gu, as well as rank 5 Gu including multiple spring egg Gu, Vajraster Gu, turn gold Gu, soft bones Gu, pitch black Gu, and hints and clues Gu. Right now, I only have the enslavement and strength path Gu worms left in my aperture. In Hu immortal blessed land, I have blood sea ancestors true inheritance, rank 4 blood skull Gu, as well as rank 3 bone flesh unity Gu and the Yang Gu left after using Yin Gu of the Yin Yang rotation Gu. Other than that, I still have some Stargate Gu, whole earth Gu, connecting heaven Gu, divine sense Gu, burial soul toad, and some supplementary Gu. These Gu were all of utmost importance, they could not be sold. Some were absolutely necessary, he needed them in the future. Hu immortal blessed land was almost squeezed dry by me, it needs to recover. But now that I have the 6-edge owner token, I can control 6 floors in 88 True Yang building as I wish. All of the rewards in these 6 floors can be taken by me. These rewards are extremely valuable. If I take them all, my wealth would grow by at least 60 times that of my current foundation. Feng Yuan had his plans. But currently, he could not touch these rewards. He Lulan had gathered some experts, and was at the final round of the 5th floor. Soon, he was going to obtain a one-edge owner token. With this token, he could check any floor's round rewards in 88 True Yang building. If Feng Yuan took the rewards, wouldn't he reveal himself? At the final moment, when Imperial Court Blessed Land is about to close and everyone gets sent out, I will take the rewards then. By that point, nobody would know a thing. Bam! The bear paw smacked and the earth quaked, rocks were sent flying like shrapnel. As the smoke dispersed, a huge bear paw the size of 5 to 6 horse carriages was lifted, showing a huge crater. The rank 4 Gu master who was unfortunately hit by the bear paw had turned into a pile of mushy flesh, mixed with some bone shards and brain matter. Too fast. We cannot react to it. The final round is truly harder than ascending to heaven. This is only the phantom image of a flying bear, it only has half the strength of the true body. If this was really the desolate beast flying bear, we would not even be able to escape. The Gu masters on the battlefield were all injured, they were in a pathetic state and felt great lingering fear. It was the phantom image of the desolate beast flying bear that was guarding the 5th floor's 100th round. It had a huge body, like that of a mountain, it had white, snowy fur, and a full set of Gu worms in it, each were elite Gu worms. It attacked fiercely, but moved just as agilely, it could dart around like lightning, which was ironic due to its huge bulky figure. After fighting for only 30 minutes, the Gu masters had already suffered huge losses. Lord Tribe Leader, we should retreat. Our motive this time is to probe it. Now that we have understood most of the Gu worms on the flying bear, we have actually achieved our goal already. Sun Shirhan stood beside He Lulan, advising. He Lulan frowned, looking around the battlefield. He was an expert in leading men to wars and battles, he knew that his troops had low morale now. Since I started challenging the 88 True Yang building, this flying bear phantom is the strongest opponent I've met. To defeat it, our strength is not enough, we need even more helpers. He Lulan assessed in his heart before snorting and saying one word, retreat. Sun Shirhan felt relieved in his heart, and not just him, the other Gu masters already had the intention to retreat, but because of the Black Tyrant's fierce reputation, no one dared to suggest it. Chapter 582, Fighting Flying Bear, Wolf King gets 50%. Everyone retreated from 88 True Yang building, as He Lulan gave an order to recruit experts that night. He was the alliance leader that won this contest, according to the rules, the entire army was his to mobilize. Everyone knew about the Black Tyrant's fierce reputation, together with him opening 88 True Yang building to everyone without any cost, they were deeply grateful to him. With both authority and gratitude, He Lulan's influence reached its peak. With this order, it created a huge commotion as everyone who was called showed up without fail. Wolf King Chang Shan Yin, Water Demon Hao Ji Lu, Twin Demons Gao Yang and Zhu Zai, Little Ma Zun Ma Yin Jie, Fox Commander Tang Miao Ming, White Fairy Shi Shui, Shadow Sword Expert Bian Si Xian, Tai Bai Yunsheng, Lu Xuan, Tao Yu, Gu Guolong, Do Yi, Nye Yaqing, Yi Luisang. On the day of the alliance meeting, the hall was filled with shining stars as heroes and conquerors whipped up a huge storm. Old sir, with you here, it is like having a giant pillar of support, we do not have to fear about low morale, ha ha ha. He Lulan sat grandly at the main seat, looking around and laughing with great ambitions. Among those who were present, Tai Bai Yunsheng had the greatest reputation, he healed people all over the land, countless people were indebted to him, even He Lulan or Chang Shan Yin could not compare to him. But the person who sat next to He Lulan was not Tai Bai Yunsheng, but Wolf King Chang Shan Yin. Reputation was something, but battle strength was another aspect. After the imperial court contest, everyone agreed that Fang Yuan's battle strength was the greatest. Dual Path Cultivator, Flying Master, Enslavement Master, all these auras gathered into one person, it was dazzling and overwhelming, thus no one had any disagreements regarding Fang Yuan's position. Thus, after He Lu Lan talked to Tai Bai Yun Sheng, he turned around to Fang Yuan, "Brother Shan Yin, we will need to count on you for this battle. If we get through, you will earn half of the rewards." He understood Fang Yuan's nature, he would not act without benefits, thus he gave such a tempting offer. The final round's rewards were nothing ordinary. Once He Lu Lan spoke, he gave half the benefits to Fang Yuan, this meant that he, along with the others, would have to share the remaining half of the rewards. As their interests were concerned, some discussions could be heard in the hall. Many people were indignant regarding this allocation, but no one had the guts to openly oppose Black Tyrant's arrangements and offend the Grand Wolf King in this hall. "Very well, we will go with that." Fang Yuan nodded, his arrogant gaze swept the hall, as the voices came to a stop. "Why has Elder Pan Ping not arrived yet?" He Lu Lan asked around. Pan Ping was born in the demonic path, nowadays he had entered He tribe and become an external elder. As the current He tribe leader, He Lu Lan's orders did not summon Pan Ping, He Lu Lan was extremely displeased by this. Actually, not just Pan Ping, Chang tribe's first elder Chang Biao was not present either. But Chang Biao was a Chang tribesman, He Lu Lan had to ignore it because of Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan did not react. The information regarding the deaths of Pan and Chang had not been spread yet. Challenging 88 True Yang building normally took several days or even half a month, the tougher the rounds, the longer it would take. Especially someone like Pan Ping, as a person without giant sun bloodline, he would incur huge expenses when he entered 88 True Yang building using the guest token. Precisely because of this, these outsiders treasured their opportunity in entering the building. If possible, they would not leave it unless they had no other choice. He Lu Lan's words had just been spoken, when his attendant He Shu stood up and reporting to Lord Tribe Leader, Elder Pan Ping and Lord Chang Biao had gone into the 7th floor not long ago. I have sent people to inform them, but the 7th floor's layout is very confusing, it is like a huge maze. The maze prohibits the use of letter Gu, and there are even wild wolf groups deep inside. The servants have tried to find them for many days, but they only found some battle traces, they could not find the two lords. He Lu Lan snorted as he waved his hand, "Then forget it, we will not wait for them, the guest tokens are ready, we will depart tomorrow morning." By the second day, everyone grandly charged into the 5th floor. N0V3LTR0VE served as the original host for this chapter's release on N0V3LB1N. This was the largest force that had gathered to enter 88 True Yang building since it was formed, it attracted countless gazes in the sacred palace. The final round of the 5th floor was a barren and desolate mountain. Brown soil, hard as steel rocks, with no grass or plants. The moment everyone entered, the flying bear phantom was alerted and growled, tearing through the air, and causing a thunderous noise. Swoosh! They saw in the dark yellow sky, a white whirlwind come crashing down. The experts retreated at once. The flying bear phantom crashed on the ground, with a loud bang, the earth shook as intense winds blew, causing many to lose their balance. Ferocious indeed. Pei Yan Fei's expression was solemn, if he had been hit directly, he would be heavily injured if not dead. It was thanks to tribe leader He Lu Lan's reminder, if not, the moment we came in we would have been attacked by this bear. Gu Guolong looked at the howling flying bear inside the crater and said with lingering fear. This is called learning from past experiences, the last time we came here, we were sneak attacked by the flying bear, 5 experts died on the spot. He Xiu Yi gritted his teeth, saying with deep hatred. Brother Shan Yin, the rest is up to you guys. He Lu Lan urged. According to their battle plan earlier, the first wave of attack should be unleashed by the enslavement path Gu masters, in order to wear down the Flying Bear Phantom's battle strength. Without any words from him, large numbers of wolves came from all directions, from the sky and land, charging and attacking the Flying Bear Phantom. In the sky, there was the Azure Wolf group; on the ground, there were the White Eyes Wolves, Frenzy Wolves, Blood Forest Wolves and others. Ordinary wolves numbered to over 400,000. At once, the wolves engulfed the area, charging like the huge waves of the Great Sea, submerging the island like Flying Bear Phantom. Roar! The flying boar roared, shaking heaven and earth. Howl! The wolf groups were not to be outdone, howling in a similar fashion. The battle ensued, whipping up a bloody storm. The Flying Bear Phantom's four paws slammed, killing at least dozens of wild wolves with one strike. The ordinary wolves could only be a disturbance to it, only the mutated beast groups could pose a threat and cause injuries to the Flying Bear Phantom. But the essence of enslavement path had always been to overwhelm quality with quantity, expending the enemy's energy to their greatest limit. Fang Yuan manipulated the wolf group, attacking as freely as the wind, or as crushing as the snow. The Flying Bear Phantom seemed to have sunk into a deep swamp; even with its frenzied attacks, it could not break through the encirclement. Now this is a master-level attainment. Wild beasts are beasts, without a human's intelligence; they are being toyed around by Chang Shan Yin. The beast groups are like a work of art under Wolf King's control. Everyone was in a daze. The enslavement Gu masters Tang Miaoming and He Qi Sheng could see the brilliance of his actions, feeling a strong sense of admiration and adoration towards Fang Yuan. But the good situation did not last. The Flying Bear Phantom suddenly stopped its actions, opening its mouth and exhaling. With this, the world changed colors, as starlight shone brilliantly to form into a river. Rank 5, Star River Gu. The Star River poured down, like a dragon or python; it engulfed the places it went, be it Frenzy Wolf or Blood Forest Wolf. They were swept away by the Star River. Some were holding their ground desperately with their defensive Gu, but those that did not have defensive Gu were turned into stardust. At once, the wolf group suffered huge losses. Fang Yuan's gaze was unmoved; it was as if the losses did not affect him, and he did not stop for now. Only until half the wolves were left, did he order them to retreat. Tang Miaoming and He Qi Sheng quickly ordered their beast groups to replace the wolves. These two, one was called Little Fox Commander with Quasi-Master Attainment. In terms of enslavement attainment, she was second to Fang Yuan alone in the Sacred Palace. The latter was an enslavement path Gu master nurtured by the Super Force He tribe. Although he had not attained master-level skill, he had deep foundations and great strength. Tang Miaoming controlled the fox groups, while He Qi Sheng controlled the eagle groups. One dominated the sky while the other was on the ground. But the Flying Bear Phantom was getting more ferocious. After the Star River had fully looped around in a ring, it clapped its paws together, roaring again as an intense wind blew, and clouds formed from nothing. In an instant the intense wind turned into tiger-shaped wind tigers, while the clouds turned into dragon-shaped cloud dragons. Rank 5, Wind Tiger Cloud Dragon Gu. Thousands of wind tigers and cloud dragons charged forward, facing the foxes and eagles head-on. At once, the battlefield was in chaos as blood rained and the pungent smell spread. Oh no, at this rate. Tang Miaoming's forehead was full of sweat, her head was hurting as she was gritting her teeth desperately. The battle was too intense; she wanted to preserve her fox group, thus she manipulated them very meticulously. It caused her soul to be greatly worn out, and she was reaching her limit. As for He Qi Sheng, his situation was even worse than hers. The fox group could still resist the enemy, but a large proportion of He Qi Sheng's eagle group had already been killed by the wind tigers and cloud dragons. They were in disorder and he could not attend to one aspect without neglecting another. The other Gu masters retreated time and time again, but they did not show any surprise. Star River Gu and Wind Tiger Cloud Dragon Gu were exposed in their previous probing, everyone was prepared for them. Have you finished the investigation? He Lulon asked an investigative Gu master beside him. The investigative Gu master was very nervous, he sat on the ground as he activated his Gu worm wholeheartedly. His forehead was folded into a frown as he replied with a trembling voice, Star River Gu's location has been found, it is in the flying bear's mouth, on the largest tooth on the left side. As for the other Gu worms, we have to continue searching. It was different to deal with beasts compared to Gu masters. All the Gu worms on the wild beast are wild, they can be captured. Gu worms on Gu masters were usually refined already. He Lulon ordered his men to search for the location of the wild Gu because of this. As long as they can capture the wild Gu on the flying bear's body, it would be much easier for them to destroy the flying bear phantom. Even if they could not capture it, it would suffice if they destroyed the Gu. Gu worms were very fragile on their own, even for spring-autumn cicada which was rank 6, Fang Yuan just needed to squeeze lightly to squish it. Wild beasts did not have apertures, the wild Gu resided in their bodies, this was a huge weakness. He Lulon snorted, shouting, continue searching. He was not pleased with this result, the Star River Gu was inside the flying bear's mouth, the difficulty to capture it was too high. During their conversation, the battlefield situation was getting worse. Tang Miaoming and He Qisheng are slowly becoming unable to resist. Pei Yanfei said with a heavy expression. The flying bear's attacks are too ferocious, luckily the wild beasts are attracting its attention. But even if the foxes and eagles die, we can replenish them, our motive of weakening the enemy has been achieved. Sun Shirhan stroked his beard as he evaluated. Chapter 583, Killing Flying Bear, Accident at the Final Moment. Although wild Gu absorbed energy from the air directly, being able to use their abilities freely without any limits on primeval essence. But during an intense battle, towards the end, the wild Gu would become more and more passive, if they sensed that the battle was going south, they would leave their host and escape on the spot using their instinct of sensing danger. Thus, when attacking a wild beast, especially beast kings or desolate beasts, during the first half of the battle, it would usually contain the most firepower, after a while, the attacks would slowly become weaker and less oppressive. Even so, we cannot allow the fox group and eagle group to suffer such losses, we should invite Lord Chang Shan-yin to step in. At the side, He Xiu-yi said. Step in, to what end? Fang Yuan folded his arms, scoffing arrogantly as he heard this, according to our battle arrangement, I will strike first while the two of them take over after me, with such intervals, we have to each hold on for 15 minutes. Right now, they have not even been there for half the allocated time, it is not time for me to step in yet. If they entered the battlefield now, the wolf group would only face the cruel slaughter of the flying bear phantom, although it would weaken the flying bear phantom as intended, if he could reduce his losses, Fang Yuan was very willing to watch on the fence. As for the others' losses, was that Fang Yuan's problem? He Xiu-yi was furious upon hearing this, but because of Fang Yuan's status, he could only hold in his anger, Lord Wolf King, everyone is putting in their full effort for this battle, right now Tang Miaoming and He Qisheng are fighting with their life, but Lord is watching by the side, isn't this too much? You dare to lecture me? Fang Yuan frowned as his killing intent surged. Although he was folding his arms, a monstrous arm grew out from his back. The monstrous arm was extremely powerful and strong, but it also moved extremely fast, directly assaulting He Xiu-yi. Never in He Xiu-yi's dreams did he think that Fang Yuan would dare to publicly, and especially during such an important battle, try to kill him. Before the fist hit, he felt the intense winds blowing towards him, causing his face to feel pain already. An incomparable feeling of fear and danger instantly filled his heart. At the crucial moment, his battle senses from many years of fighting saved his life successfully. He reacted before even thinking, activating his defense Gu and putting up 3 lines of defense. He was a defensive Gu master originally, and because his specialty was defense, He Lulan had once sent him to Fang Yuan as a form of protection. But during the battle, He Xiu cherished his own safety and forgot about his mission, abandoning Fang Yuan on the battlefield. The monstrous arm was unstoppable, it smashed the 3 defenses quickly and hit his chest. Crack! A crisp sound could be heard. He Xiu's rib bones were all crushed, the monstrous strength sent him flying like a cannonball. He vomited blood while flying in the air. Then with a rumble, he crashed on a small mound several hundred steps away. When the sound of the impact was heard and the dust settled, he was half embedded into the mound, falling unconscious and losing his battle strength. Lord Wolf King. What happened? What happened? Why did they fight? He Xiu urged Lord Wolf King to battle, the two could not get along and Wolf King suddenly burst into anger, sending He Xiu flying. Seeing such a shocking event, everyone was gasping. Internal conflicts were always so sudden, so severe. He Xiu's identity was not simple, he was one of the 3 commanders of the Black Banner Army, an important person within the He tribe higher-ups. Fang Yuan attacking him with such intensity was no different than openly taunting He Lulan. Once He Lulan and Xianxia stood on opposing sides, this battle would not only end up in failure, the entire sacred palace would also fall into political turmoil. Wolf King, what happened? I would like to hear your explanation. He Lulan's expression was like still water as he came over to question Fang Yuan. He usually called Fang Yuan Brother Xianxia to show their close relationship, but now that he called him Wolf King, it showed his anger. But no matter how angry he was, would Fang Yuan be afraid? Immediately, Fang Yuan stared back at him with no fear, his killing intent dispersed as he snickered, "Tribe leader He Lulan, you came at a good time, your subordinate was truly stepping out of line, he dared to lecture me. Such a lack of respect with a complete disregard for seniority, I punished him for you, no need to thank me, don't forget about our friendship after all." Using disrespect and seniority, he sent 2 reasons over just like that. His final sentence mentioning our friendship had even deeper meaning. It was like he was trying to say that they had a great friendship, but it could also mean that they had no friendship at all. He Lulan stared furiously. This Xianxia is too arrogant. He dared to hit my man. Looking at his lawless manner, does he really think I cannot do anything to him just because of his great battle strength? Black Tyrant roared in his heart. He was cultivating dark path on the surface, but in truth, because of the great strength true martial physique, his real cultivation was in the strength path. His battle strength was superb, but he could not use his strength path methods because that would accelerate the disaster of one of the 10 extreme physiques. I'll endure it. Right now, we are at the crucial moment of attacking the flying bear phantom, if we get into an argument now, it would all go to waste. What is most important now is to find my strength path immortal Gu and ascend to become a Gu immortal. As long as they killed the flying bear phantom this time, He Lulan would be able to get through this floor and his owner token would immediately become a one-edge owner token. With the one-edge owner token, he would be able to inspect the reward of any round of any floor, the one with a strength path immortal Gu would be his focus and target. Precisely so, it was extremely important to kill the flying bear phantom, even with He Lulan's temper and cruelty, he had to endure it. I'll let you be arrogant for once. One day, I will make you kneel down at my feet and lick my toes, if I tell you to shut up, you will keep quiet. If I ask you to bark, you will wag your tail. He Lulan was extremely furious, veins were popping on his forehead, but his eyes were fixed on Fang Yuan intensely. Just as everyone was feeling a heavy atmosphere from this silence, and were feeling uneasy, He Lulan suddenly raised his head and laughed loudly. "Good, Brother Xianxia did a good job, such a disrespectful person should be taught a lesson indeed." This was akin to He Lu Lan taking a step back. Those who knew his poor temper were all shocked. His tribesman was beaten till he was unconscious in public. He Lu Lan actually agreed with him. Wolf King is too strong. He did not care about the super force He tribe. Now even He Lu Lan need to take a step back. Bullshit, this is tribe leader He Lu Lan caring about the big picture. He did not want to stoop to the level of Chang Shan-yin. Chang Shan-yin beat us He tribesmen. One day, he will pay the price. Everyone had their comments as they conversed in secret. Roar. The flying boar's roaring attracted everyone's attention again. The eagle and fox groups were facing great losses. I have let down all the lords. He Qisheng's nose was bleeding, his face was full of shame. Tang Miaoming's expression was pale, as her slim body was swaying with weakness. Protect the two of them. Tai Bai Yunsheng shouted. Both of you have had a huge contribution to this, I can see your sincerity. After this battle, you will be greatly rewarded. He Lu Lan had an amicable expression as he came forward to console them. The flying bear lost its obstacles and charged forward towards everyone. By right, the wolf group should be charging up to continue weakening the bear. But He Lu Lan looked at Fang Yuan, who was folding his arms arrogantly, not saying a word. In fact his wolves were retreating faster than anyone on the battlefield. I'll endure. One day, I will make you pay a huge price. He Lu Lan gritted his teeth, knowing that he could not make Fang Yuan do anything. If he forced Fang Yuan and got rejected in public, he would take a huge hit to his reputation and be deeply humiliated. Thus, He Lu Lan shouted loudly, "Strike, initiate the second step of the plan. Go." Immediately, two people flew out like lightning. One was a slim and elegant person wearing a fluttering blue dress. It was White Fairy Xianxia. The other was muscular and stable, wearing a yellow robe. It was Gu tribe leader Gu Guolong. White Fairy Xianxia flew into the air. Her sleeves were waving as she shouted in an alluring manner, causing snow to descend immediately. It was her signature rank 5 Gu worm, Flying Snow Gu. Gu Guolong ran on the ground, his legs were moving like turbines. Everywhere he went, smoke rose as rocks were sent flying. It was also a rank 5 Gu, called Flying Sand Moving Rock. At once, white snow was floating in the air, while sand and rocks were rolling on the ground. The giant mountain-like flying bear phantom was stuck between the snow and sand. Its speed reduced drastically as its vision was also obscured. It roared loudly, waving its paws in the snow and sand, but the air currents generated from its attacks made the sand and snow even more intense, blurring its sight. Seeing this, He Lu Lan laughed cruelly, ordering, "Third step." This time, almost 10 people charged into the battlefield. Every one of them was an expert. There was Bian Si Xian, Hao Ji Lu, Pei Yan Fei, Gao Yang, Shu Zai, Dou Yi, Nie Yiqing, Tao Yu, Lu Xuan. These Gu masters were either rank 4 peak stage or rank 5 experts. Adding in Gu Guolong and Xianxia, they were truly a powerful formation. They drilled into the snow and sand, attacking furiously towards the flying bear phantom. The flying bear phantom roared continuously. It was very agitated and attacked randomly, but had little effect. On the other hand, the Gu masters had used their investigative Gu worms from the start. Their vision was clear as they constantly avoided the bear while unleashing strong attacks. Pei Yan Fei grew wings as his swallow wings were like scissors tearing through the sky. Swallow Wings Gu. Golden Coat Gu. Rainbow Transformation Gu. Killer Move, Golden Rainbow Strike. He turned into a golden flash of lightning as he charged down with fierce crackling. The flying bear roared in pain, blood was spewing as a huge injury appeared on its chest, from the left shoulder to its right waist. Nie Yiqing followed closely after. He was a rank 5 Gu master, using the Iron Hook Silver Slash Gu. His palm formed into an eagle claw shape as he aimed at the flying bear phantom, slashing with his fingers. Immediately, several flashes appeared in the air, some were as dark as steel while some were shining like silver. His claws continued to tear at the sky, as countless flashes attacked the flying bear phantom's eyes, nose, and mouth. Nyayaching attacked its weak points, causing the flying bear to take the hit passively. Overlapping shadow. Bian Si Xian shouted lightly, as the shadow sword in her hand waved. A dark sword shadow flew several hundred steps and attacked the flying bear's right leg noiselessly, leaving a 10-meter-long wound. Protect me! Yi Lui Sang shouted, raising both his palms as a fireball appeared above him, growing and expanding at a rapid speed. The fireball became larger and larger, as the battlefield was dyed red, the light from the fireball could not be concealed by the snow and sand. The flying bear felt the danger too and struggled, charging towards Yi Lui Sang who was in the air. But the next moment, it was attacked by Daoist Gu Guolong and Tao Yu. Daoist was a transformation path Gu master, turning into a giant crocodile as he battled and retreated. He opened his mouth, shooting out his teeth one by one. The teeth hit the flying bear's body and were embedded into it. In a few breaths' time, they exploded, causing the flying bear's body to be covered in flesh and blood. Gu Guolong waved his sleeve and dozens of gu worms flew out. These gu worms landed on the ground, causing the earth to grow into a mound. The mound broke and rockman-like giant statues appeared, standing up and attacking the flying bear phantom. Tao Yu was an earth path gu master. But he and Gu Guolong had different methods. He continued to absorb the earth energy as he gathered it into himself. Next, he punched consecutively, with each punch shooting out earth energy. Flying in the air, they transformed into meteors and crashed onto the flying bear's body. Bam bam bam. As the intense meteors collided, the flying bear's attacks towards Yi Lui Sang slowed. Finally, Yi Lui Sang was finished with his charging and he pressed his palms down, as a giant fireball was sent down like a descending mountain, hitting the huge flying bear phantom without regard for its welfare. Bam! With an intense explosion, ears were deafened. The intense wind stirred, spreading everywhere, blowing the snow and sand away to the edge of the battlefield. The Gu masters who were there were blown by the intense winds, getting shocked as their clothes and hair were pulled along by the wind. When the dust settled, a huge crater formed on the battlefield. All around the deep crater, a sand-like surface could be seen due to the strong heat from the fire. The flying bear phantom was curled up into a ball, making no sounds. Its body was covered in 5 lights that were interchanging, black, white, red, yellow, and azure. Rank 5, 5-element bear skin Gu. This Gu could greatly reduce the damage from metal, wood, water, fire, and earth path Gu worms, but under the attacks of so many experts, the flying bear's body was covered in injuries as blood spewed everywhere, and some injuries were so deep bones could be seen. Gu masters were standing at the edge of the crater, watching the flying bear. Although the flying bear was strong, after 2 rounds of battle, such results had been obtained. Be careful, do not forget that it still has the grand chaotic dance Gu. Sun Shi Han reminded. The Gu masters had a serious expression as some nodded lightly. Grand chaotic dance Gu was a rank 5 Gu. It could cause the flying bear to go into a frenzied state, increasing its strength and speed greatly. At the same time its 4 limbs could be twisted at will. Once this wild Gu was activated, the flying bear's danger level would surge. If one was not careful and got caught, they might be turned into meat paste in no more than a few breaths' time. What's there to be afraid of? Don't forget we have old Sir Tai Bai here. Whoever charges first will be heavily rewarded by me. He Lu Lan shouted. His promise of rewards made the Gu master's eyes shine brightly. When great rewards are offered, brave people emerge. I'll do it. Hao Ji Lu shouted, whipping up a wave as he charged towards the flying bear. Under everyone's gazes, he advanced towards the flying bear quickly. 1,000 steps, 500 steps, 300 steps. The flying bear suddenly raised its head, its eyes were blood red as it growled loudly, shooting out an invisible air bubble. The bubble expanded at lightning speed, covering both Hao Ji Lu and the flying bear, as it contracted quickly and vanished completely. In an instant, the flying bear and Hao Ji Lu both vanished. Chapter 584, Demise of Water Demon, Fan Yuan's Enlightening Words. With such a sudden event, everyone's expressions changed. What happened? Where did they go? He vanished. Don't tell me this round has some secret behind it. Everyone was guessing as they discussed among themselves. He Lulan was frowning, feeling very perplexed. Sun Shihan's expression was grim and uncertain. He seemed to have thought of something as he spoke in a hesitant manner. Is it the Battle Space Gu? Battle Space Gu? At once, everyone's attention was focused on Sun Shihan. He Lulan's eyes shone with brilliance as he said deeply, "This is indeed a space path Gu worm, but if it is the Battle Space Gu, then Elder Hao Ji Lu is in trouble." Battle Space Gu vanished for so many years, to think it would reappear here today. Tai Bai Yunxing sighed, it seemed he had confirmed it. He had obtained an immortal inheritance from the old beggar, he naturally had great knowledge. What is the Battle Space Gu? Everyone asked. Yi Lui Sang's gaze was grave. He was the current tribe leader of Yi Lui tribe, a super tribe, but because they lost, he had to join He tribe. He owned a mysterious fire path immortal Gu, he was well learnt and had a wealth of knowledge. At this point, he started explaining, the Battle Space Gu is a rank 5 space path Gu worm. Once activated, it can send both the enemy and the user into a unique space. In there, they will fight to the death, so only when the winner is decided, or when the time runs out, would they be released from that space. Sigh, to think that the flying bear had such a Gu worm hidden. He Lulan sighed as he looked at the sky, speaking with a hateful tone. Everyone's expression was grim as ever, expressing their worry towards Hao Ji Lu's safety. The flying bear phantom was so strong, even with everyone's combined strength, they could not kill it. How could Hao Ji Lu face it all on his own? The result of this match could be easily predicted by anyone, the flying bear wins and Hao Ji Lu loses. Although Hao Ji Lu had first-rate escaping methods like water image Gu, Yi Lui Sang had already said that the space created by Battle Space Gu would only close when one side has a clear victory, decided by life and death. Even if Hao Ji Lu used all his escaping methods, he would be captured and killed by the flying bear phantom eventually. Unless he had an opposing space path Gu. But Hao Ji Lu was a water path Gu master, everyone knew that. Even among all the experts present, none of them were in the space path, thus there was nothing they could do to the Battle Space Gu. Maybe there is still some hope. Tribe leader Yi Lui Sang said earlier that only when the winner is decided, or when the time runs out. This time runs out means? Tang Miaoming asked. Yi Lui Sang sighed deeply, sigh, this time restriction is for Gu masters. To maintain the Battle Space Gu, primeval essence will be expended constantly. If a Gu master uses it, the battle space would vanish when their primeval essence is completely used up. At this point, everyone lost their hope. The Flying Bear Phantom's Battle Space Gu was a wild Gu. Wild Gu absorbed the primeval energy in the air, and as the primeval energy in the air was continuously supplied, there was no way for the time limit to end. If we can absorb all the primeval energy in the air, would that work? Bian Si Xian gave a very good suggestion, everyone's eyes were shining. But it was no use. After discussing for a while, everyone found that to deal with the invisible and formless primeval energy, Chi path methods were required. But Chi path was an ancient path, it had once flourished but had been replaced later by the rising strength path. By now, strength path had declined, not to mention Chi path. Chi path had been near extinction for a long time. It was extremely rare to see a Chi path Gu master. Even though Tai Bai Yunsheng had roamed northern plains for so many years, he had only seen 3 Chi path cultivators. The most recent one, who was also the strongest, was Lu Wenwu's sworn brother, the variant human Mo Shi Quan. But this person had followed Lu Wenwu since long ago. He was part of Lu tribe. Why would he serve under He Lu Lan? Even if he could help, he was an attack-type Gu master. He might not have the ability to deal with the primeval energy. In any case, no one could enter Imperial Court Blessed Land anymore at this point. Chi path is not the most important. The most crucial thing is to break the connection between the primeval energy and battle space Gu. We do not need to get rid of the primeval energy in this area. Tai Bai Yunsheng said as he stroked his beard. But this was something no one could do. Breaking the connection between the primeval energy and wild Gu was the signature ability of Restriction Path. Restriction Path was also a rare path. There were very few Restriction Path Gu masters. Among everyone present, no one was a Restriction Path Gu master. Earlier when I obtained a high-grade evaluation and entered 88 Truyang Building's treasure room, I found the Restriction Path Primeval Break Gu. It could be used in this scenario. But who could I have predicted this? I ended up exchanging something else. Louis Shuang patted his thigh, expressing his regret. Fang Yuan was folding his arms, expression and not speaking as he stood at one side. Think harder, there has to be a way. He Lu Lan had just spoken, when the space shook, the huge body of the flying bear phantom appearing before them. It opened its mouth and roared, showing its frenzy nature. Everyone's heart sank, quickly looking for Hao Ji Lu's traces. If he is alive they must see him, if he is dead they must at least see the corpse, but they could not find it anywhere. Quick, look at the flying bear's mouth. Sun Shirhan was an investigative Gu master. He was the first to find the trace. Everyone looked over and saw that the flying bear's mouth had traces of blood, and there were some cloth stuck in between its teeth. This cloth was very familiar to them. Everyone pondered about it and quickly realized, wasn't this Hao Ji Lu's clothing? They understood at once. Hao Ji Lu was eaten by the flying bear. What a pity for Hao Ji Lu, the great demonic path expert, known as the Water Demon, displaying great brilliance in the Imperial Court contest, yet he died at this very place. N0V3LTR0VE served as the original host for this chapter's release on N0V3LB1N. Fate was full of uncertainty. The cruelty of reality made everyone feel a strong sense of pity and dread. Tai Bai Yunsheng could do nothing either. Although he had man as before Gu, but it needed a target to use it on. Right now Hao Ji Lu's corpse was chewed up by the flying bear, and swallowed into its stomach. How could he be saved? The Gu master's morale fell. The flying bear phantom is too ferocious. How can we fight it? It is so cramped inside the battle space. The flying bear has the 5-element bear skin Gu, wind tiger cloud dragon Gu, star river Gu, and grand chaotic dance Gu. If we fought it alone, who could be its match? We could never have expected this final round to be difficult to this degree. 88 Truyang Building's rounds got harder towards the later stages, and the final, 100th round was the hardest. Right now 88 Truyang Building had already created more than 10 floors. The Gu masters were working hard to clear all the rounds for rewards, but most of them were stuck at the 90th or so round. This final round was the first one everyone had arrived at. Damn it, morale is so low, it is hard to fight anymore. Do we return empty-handed this time? He Lu Lan's expression was grim. This time, they created a huge party for this challenge, yet they lost an expert without gaining anything. This was a huge blow to his reputation and prestige. Disregarding that, what He Lu Lan wanted was a Strength Path Immortal Gu, meaning he needed a one-edge owner token. If he could not clear this floor, he would only have an ordinary edgeless owner token. If he gave up on this floor and chose other floors to challenge, he would need to expend a lot of time. Time waits for no man, and this too went for him, He Lu Lan. Just as the troops' morale was sinking, Fang Yuan slowly said with a calm expression, "What difficulty is there in killing the flying bear?" Once he said so, dozens of gazes turned around to look at him. But soon, they lowered their gazes. Wolf King was no longer the Wolf King in the rumors. In the past, Wolf King Chang Shan was a great heroic character in Northern Plains, a legend who exterminated Daoist Gu and his band of bandits. The current Wolf King was a flying and enslavement master, the #1 fierce general publicly recognized in this current imperial court contest. During the final battle, he took down the enemy's commander easily from amidst the army, showing his great strength. He had become even more arrogant and aloof, even becoming cruel and ruthless, striking as a means of persuasion. He Xiu, who was nearly killed by him, was a prime example. Looking back in time, there was another example, Sun Shirhan. He had once been attacked by Chang Shan in public, his entire face was trampled on the ground under everyone's watchful eye, he had lost all his pride and face. Only He Lu Lan's gaze approached him, only the black tyrant had no fear towards the unrestrained and arrogant Chang Shan. "Brother Shan, I would like to hear your brilliant plan." He Lu Lan cupped his fists. Fang Yuan laughed lightly, "It is not a brilliant plan, there is no harm in saying it." He paused before saying, "This battle space Gu is quite special, but it is only rank 5, there has to be restrictions on it, particularly in range. In my opinion, as long as we fight it from afar and avoid the range of battle space Gu's effect, we will be fine." He Lu Lan was shocked, these words truly made him feel as though he was waking up from a dream. Everyone's eyes were shining, some patted their head as they said excitedly, "I was too frightened by battle space Gu's reputation." Indeed, any Gu worm had its range of effect. The battle space Gu's range should not be wide, otherwise, it would not have waited for Hao Ji Lu to get close before activating it. Of course, battle space Gu was a wild Gu, so the range had to be assessed more carefully. "Next, I will manipulate the wolf group and encircle the flying bear, you guys will attack from afar using long-range methods." Fang Yuan commanded. He Lu Lan was overjoyed, he could not command Fang Yuan to move, now that Fang Yuan was voluntarily entering battle, he quickly said, "We will do as Wolf King says." Battle ensued again. The wolf group was inside trapping the flying bear. The Gu masters were outside unleashing a rain of attacks from afar. Like this, the scene of a group of ants eating an elephant was formed. Flying bear roared continuously, using Star River Gu, Wind Tiger Cloud Dragon Gu, Grand Chaotic Dance Gu and others, causing great casualties to the wolf group. In contrast, the Gu masters were all safe and sound, no more deaths occurred. He Lu Lan was initially afraid of Fang Yuan withdrawing due to huge casualties in the wolf group. But Fang Yuan showed a strong attitude, he did not retreat even though he was having losses, he even disregarded the wolf corpses. He Lu Lan was perplexed, but after thinking about it, he attributed Fang Yuan's reason for not retreating no matter what to his earlier promise, once they cleared this, Wolf King would get 50% of the reward. What he did not know was, Fang Yuan's true motive was his owner token. He Lu Lan wanted to elevate his owner token, that suited Fang Yuan's interests, after his owner token becomes 4-edge, Fang Yuan would snatch it away and form the 10-edge owner token, obtaining a giant sun true inheritance. Because of Fang Yuan's intervention, the scales of victory tilted towards the Gu masters. Flying Bear's injuries became heavier, as blood flowed down the mound like a waterfall. Roar! Suddenly, the Flying Bear roared again, shooting out another invisible bubble. The rank 5 battle space Gu was activated once again. The Gu masters were prepared for this, retreating quickly, but the bubble was targeted at a blood forest wolf. Swoosh! With a light sound, the flying bear and the blood forest wolf vanished. Using the same move again, what's the use? Someone saw this and laughed. As long as we do not get closer, why would we be afraid of the battle space goo? Ha ha ha. All of you shut up. He Lu Lan screamed furiously, showing a very annoyed and irritated expression. Not just him, Fang Yuan, Tai Bai Yunsheng and the others also had a grim expression. Chapter 585, Finally Getting Through, Fang Yuan requests for an immortal goo. This time, the battle space lasted much longer than before, lasting half a day before it dispersed. The hill-sized giant flying bear phantom appeared once again before everyone. Damn it, just like we thought. Sun Shi-han cried out involuntarily. Humph. He Lu Lan was also not looking well. There were no injuries on the flying bear phantom's body, a dazzling halo flowing through its snow-white fur. Its eyes were bright and its battle intent soared high, it had seemingly made a complete recovery. Flying Bear had a rank 5 healing goo which had already been investigated clearly. As for its opponent, the blood forest wolf, which had been pulled into the battle space, only a pile of white bones remained. Can we still fight it? Even Pei Yan Fei with his raging battle intent, felt indecisive at this moment. Tai Bai Yunsheng stroked his beard and muttered, no matter how serious the flying bear phantom's injuries are, as long as it uses battle space goo to enter the battle space, it can recover back to its prime state in half a day. And during this time, we can do nothing but to just look on. Right, battle space goo might only be a wild goo and not under the flying bear's control, but a wild goo's sense of danger is very sharp, and when it senses danger, it will casually choose a target to pull into the battle space to protect its host. Doesn't this mean the wolf groups also cannot be used? Wolf groups have to engage in close combat, surrounding the flying bear, aren't they just the best targets to pull into the battle space? Looks like only us goo masters should attack now. When someone said this, the scene suddenly quietened. Throwing out the wolf groups and making goo masters assault the flying bear phantom was also not feasible. The flying bear could quickly pull a goo master into the battle space. The goo master was sure to struggle bitterly to their last breath, using every method they had to keep on living. There was a very simple way to break the battle space and not give the flying bear enough time to heal. The goo master that was pulled into the battle space needed to immediately suicide. But no one would want to kill themselves, survival instinct was human nature. Even Tai Bai Yunsheng would not be able to save them. Water Demon Hao Ji Lu's bloody tragedy was a clear example of it. The final round is really too difficult. We have gathered so many people with many heroes, but we are actually helpless against this flying bear phantom with our combined strength. Flying Bear quietly lied down on the ground, vigilantly looking at the crowd. It did not attack and only let out low roars. It should not be like this. The crucial thing is we have no way to restrain battle space goo. We don't have methods of restriction path and chi path. Hey tribe leader, I suggest we change the strategy. Yi Lui Sang was also a tribe leader of a super force, others might not dare to speak up, but he could talk bluntly. He Lu Lan gave a snort but did not reply. His thoughts moved like lightning. Looking at this situation, it is almost impossible to resolve the problem of battle space goo. It seems like there is only one way, that is for me to go into battle and make the flying bear pull me into the battle space. In the battle space, I can use my strength path killer move and kill the flying bear. His strength path killer move was extremely powerful, it was a secret technique of He tribe. He Lu Lan could not take care of the flying bear with just the dark path cultivation which he showed on the surface. But if he used his strength path abilities, with the amplification from his great strength true martial physique, it would not be difficult for him to kill the flying bear. But if he did so, he would be breaking the sealing effect of Immortal Goo Dark Limit, which would quicken the appearance of the disaster of one of the 10 extreme physiques. The time I have is already not enough, now if I use my strength path killer move to kill the flying bear, this time will shorten even more. And in this short period of time, I still need to attack another floor, clear 100 rounds and obtain a strength path immortal Gu. This difficulty is too large. But if I don't cross this round, I won't have a one-edge owner token, so how could I know about the position of the strength path immortal Gu? Whether I change the strategy or ask for support from the tribe, they both require time. The worst situation will be if I use the strength path killer move, kill this flying bear, obtain a one-edge owner token, but there is no strength path immortal Gu in 88 True Yang building. He Lulan was hesitating. This matter concerned his life and death while the path ahead was filled with darkness, even he could not avoid being indecisive and helpless. It is not difficult to break the battle space. One astonishing sentence resounded in the place. Everyone followed the voice towards its source. It was none other than Wolf King once again. Brother Shan, you have another method? He Lulan immediately asked. Fang Yuan smiled. I should also be making an all-out effort for the 50% reward, right? My plan is divided into 3 steps. First, we will use long-range methods to exhaust the flying bear's energy as much as possible. Second, we will send a death warrior to engage in close combat. He will have to immediately suicide if he is pulled into the battle space. Third, the flying bear will have no time to take a breather, and we continue with long-range battle. We will definitely be able to kill this beast once we maintain this plan. Good plan. How could I have not thought of it? Some people cheered, some people slapped their thighs loudly in pleasant surprise, while some people inwardly muttered of this plan's cruelty. But no matter what they commented, everyone knew this method could solve the problem. In northern plains where battles occurred frequently, every single tribe possessed death warriors. It was only a matter of whether they had many or few, whether they were elites or ordinary. He tribe was a super force. The death warriors they cultivated were not only many in number, but were also elites. This way. Tai Bai Yunxing slightly frowned, disturbed by this plan. Sun Shihan's eyes flashed with brilliance as he looked at He Lulan without speaking. Dying in battle and taking the initiative to throw away one's life were 2 completely different concepts. The former was the honor of the brave, while the latter was those in power bringing disaster to others' lives for their benefits. If this plan was really to be carried out, He Lulan, this He tribe leader's reputation would be completely destroyed. This was against the values of the righteous path. Being in the righteous path, their biggest concern was reputation. Those with bad reputation would have a limited achievement in the righteous path. Demonic path was different. No matter what the reputation was, its main value was strength. Thus, within the demonic path, there was the plague like Hao Ji Lu, as opposed to the life-savior Tai Bai Yunxing. Because of this, Sun Shihan did not attempt to advise this matter. He was a smart man and knew no matter how he said it or persuaded, it would not be appropriate. He had even thought of this method earlier, but did not suggest it. He did not dare. The current Sun Shihan was already an external elder of He tribe. Once he suggested this, it would be asking to soil his reputation. Would he still be able to stay with He tribe then? Probably only this sinister and cruel Wolf King can say it without any misgivings. Sun Shihan secretly glanced at Fang Yuan with hatred and fear, his cheek seemingly twitching in pain. But what Sun Shihan did not know was, to He Lulan, what use would reputation be when his own life was about to be over? When He Lulan heard Fang Yuan's plan, he immediately decided to use it. But he still frowned and thought for a long while, hesitating, pitifully sighing and showing a profound, merciful expression. Finally, he heaved a long sigh and spoke a pile of erudite words. The main idea was, they were forced to use this plan. The tribesmen who die will be given grand burial by him as a brother, and he will personally take care of their family, give compensation, and so on. Everyone knew it, but they could not point it out. This was the game rule of the righteous path. After going through this process, He Lulan immediately summoned He tribe's death warriors to enter the battle. These death warriors from He tribe were all of rank 2 cultivation and had been brought up by He tribe since youth, imbued day and night with the ideology of loyalty to the tribe. As for rank 3 death warriors, it was not that there were none of them. But once they reach rank 3, they would become a precious resource and almost every one of them would be free from the status of a death warrior. Only super forces would have a number of death warriors of rank 3 and even rank 4 cultivation, but they would not use them so lightly. He Lulan was this generation's He tribe leader, and if he sent these death warriors to their deaths, they could not refuse him. If the emperor wants his subjects dead, the subjects need to die no matter what, regardless of their will. This was the system. The following battle went without any accidents. The battle persisted till more than 10 death warriors were sacrificed, and the flying bear phantom finally collapsed on the ground, breathing its last. But when everyone wanted to deliver the final strike, they suddenly discovered they could not even budge. What is happening? It is 88 true Yang buildings power making us not able to move. Isn't this too shameless? Only a move more and we could kill this flying bear. Everyone shouted and raged at this stupefying situation. Only Fang Yuan's expression was tranquil. He had a 6-edge owner token and knew that this round was over. He Lulan also felt this and immediately took out his owner token, fixing his gaze at it and saw an edge gradually emerging from the originally round owner token. At the same time, a strong sense of fortune entered the depths of his heart, letting him know that he was in full control of this floor. So we had no need to kill the flying bear in this final round and only needed to beat it to near death. He Lulan was exulted inwardly, but showed a mournful expression on his face, sighing, "Everyone, do not fret, the battle has ended, we were successful, this round is crossed." Sigh, what happened to my He tribe's children was truly a pity. If not for the battle space isolating the connection between the inside and outside, I would have definitely used puppets or wild goo to replace them. We passed. Everyone was shocked and excited. Tribe leader He Lulan, I wonder what the rewards for this round are. Is it possible to let this old man broaden his horizons? Tai Bai Yun Sheng inquired. The motive for him entering 88 True Yang building was lifespan goo. However, lifespan goo was rare and precious and could only appear as the rewards for 90th or above rounds. He Lulan revealed a peculiar expression at the inquiry and pointed at the dying flying bear phantom. That is this round's reward. What? This flying bear phantom? How could it be? Everyone was shocked once again, only Fang Yuan knew clearly. He possessed a 6-edge owner token, and knew the rewards for any round of 88 True Yang building's current floors like the back of his palm. Before even tackling this round, he knew of this round's reward. It was a rank 6 Phantom Path Immortal Goo with a simple to understand name, Flying Bear Phantom Goo. Sure enough, at the next moment, under everyone's astonished gazes, the dying giant flying bear gradually turned into an enormous ball of white light. The white light shrunk rapidly, finally turning into a speck of light that flew towards He Lulan. He Lulan quickly received it and carefully observed it. He was the master of the owner token, the reward for passing this round was his. He had just come into contact with this flying bear phantom goo, but easily refined it because of 88 True Yang building's power. Fang Yuan's 6-edge owner token was different. It was created from exploitation and could only receive the floor's rewards after taking control of the floor. Naturally, it was not like it could not contest against He Lulan's owner token, but once they contested, giant suns would awaken which would cause a great loss to him, or even face a tragic end. This risk was better not taken if possible. Flying Bear Phantom Goo was looking very dim, its aura was weak like it was near death, its condition was extremely poor. But He Lulan was unable to take his eyes off it. What was this? This is an immortal goo. He had just sighed with emotions inwardly when a voice sounded in his ears, "This immortal Gu, give it to me." The tone of the voice was flat, but it could not suppress the determination within. He Lulan immediately frowned. He did not need to look around to know who the speaker was. Who else had guts to mention such a request besides Wolf King Xianxia? Chapter 586, Using Flying Bear, Mo Yao speaks of Phantom Path. When Fong Yuan publicly requested the Flying Bear Phantom Gu, He Lulan's immediate reaction was to object immediately. This was an immortal Gu. Even an ordinary Gu immortal would not obtain one easily. No matter how amazing Wolf King was, he was only a mortal, he dared to make such an absurd request. Moreover, this Flying Bear Phantom Gu was extremely easy to use. With just a single thought, and a toss of the Gu, one could make the Gu worm transform into the Flying Bear Phantom and engage in combat. Although the Flying Bear Phantom's battle strength was not as terrifying as the desolate beast Flying Bear, it definitely had half immortal battle strength. With this Gu, one could easily dominate the mortal realm. If during the Immortal Court contest, He Lulan had such an immortal Gu, there would be no place for Fong Yuan to display his abilities. Fong Yuan asked for it, it was very rude. However, even though He Lulan was furious, he felt that this was only natural. After all, only a person like Xianxia would have the guts to make such a request in public. Looking at the Flying Bear Phantom Gu in his hand, He Lulan slowly calmed down. Not good, the Flying Bear Phantom was half beaten to death by us. This immortal Gu's condition is extremely poor, it cannot be used now, it has to recover for some time. An injured immortal Gu needs an immortal Gu to heal it. Other than that, it can only self-recover, but during that period it would need to consume lots of food, unceasingly. If I did not remember wrongly, this Flying Bear Phantom Gu's food is the desolate beast Flying Bear's flesh and blood. This is problematic. How can I have such a thing? I have to seek help from the tribe's immortals. The more He Lulan thought about it, the more his anger subsided. He was of the 10 extreme physique's great strength true martial physique, he needed a strength path immortal Gu to ascend to Gu immortal realm and escape the threat of death. The Flying Bear Phantom Gu was not something he needed, what he desperately wanted now was a strength path immortal Gu. My most important priority at the moment is to find a strength path immortal Gu. Immortal Gu are often only given at the final round of a floor. During the process of completing this, I will need everyone's strength. Although He Lulan was not afraid of Xianxia, if he forcefully kept the Flying Bear Phantom Gu, then the Wolf King would definitely become enemies with him. With that gap between them, there was no way he could utilize the Wolf King's strength again. He might as well give this immortal Gu to him, to exchange for his strength, and truly help and benefit He Lulan himself. This way, He Lulan's reputation could be preserved as well, no one would say that he went back on his words. He Lulan made many considerations, but this was only a moment in real time. Humph, Sun Shirhan snickered, Lord Wolf King, this is an immortal Gu, you want to take it just like that? My tribe leader promised you half the rewards earlier, but that does not mean we need to give you the immortal Gu. It seems the lesson I gave you earlier was not enough. Fong Yuan heard this and frowned lightly, his gaze turned ice cold as his killing intent was released fully, towards Sun Shirhan. Sun Shirhan's expression changed instantly, and he could not help but move closer to He Lulan. No one questioned if Fong Yuan would have the guts to directly execute the killing blow. The ferocity of Wolf King was ingrained in everyone's hearts. Ha ha ha. He Lulan laughed loudly, walking towards Fong Yuan as he patted his chest, a true gentleman never goes back on his words. Earlier, I promised the Wolf King half the rewards, then it shall be 50%. It was all due to Brother Shan Yin's brilliant plan that allowed us to get through this round. I will add another 10% of reward, but the immortal Gu is unique, its value is immeasurable. Even with your 60% reward, in what way are you going to compensate the remaining 40% to us? That's right, we put in much effort too. I have heavy injuries now, I did not retreat amidst the fierce combat, everyone can be my witness. Even Lord Water Demon Hao Ji Lu died because of this. I believe Lord Wolf King will give us a good solution. Everyone said in agreement, it was all targeted at Fang Yuan. Even though Fang Yuan had great strength, but wealth moved people's hearts, everyone was filled with envy, jealousy and hatred upon seeing that an immortal Gu was going to fall into his hands. Thus, they pushed all of their unhappiness towards Fang Yuan. Under everyone's gaze, Fang Yuan frowned deeper and deeper. He Lulan laughed secretly, Wolf King, O Wolf King, even with your ferocious reputation and outstanding strength, you will still eventually be captured by me. 7 days later. 88 Truyang Building 7th layer, the 90th round. In the maze, the flying bear phantom was roaring at the sky. Its body was covered in wounds, blood was oozing at its mouth, and several of its sharp teeth had broken. Its right eye was blinded, hanging outside its socket like a grape, it was in bad shape. But it only had one enemy. He was floating in the air, with 6 arms on his back. Compared to the hill-like flying bear phantom which had a massive body, he was very small. But the flying bear phantom was serious and vigilant like it was facing a strong enemy. After they had battled for 15 minutes, it could deeply feel how powerful this tiny enemy was. Flying bear phantom Gu, it is deservedly an immortal Gu. Even after turning into the flying bear phantom, it retains much wisdom, and is quite shrewd. In the future when I face strong foes, I can use it to restrain them and that can help me save a lot of energy. Fang Yuan looked at the flying bear phantom below him as he evaluated in his heart. 7 days ago, He Lulan gathered the band of experts and broke through the final round of the 5th floor, obtaining the flying bear phantom immortal Gu. Fang Yuan was blunt and unrestrained, as he immediately asked for it. Even though the other Gu masters were jealous and envious, trying to come up with endless excuses against this, Fang Yuan announced that he was willing to compensate the remaining half of the Gu's worth, while giving an unrelenting attitude. Eventually, He Lulan gave this Gu to Fang Yuan. With this Gu, Fang Yuan went to He Lulan that night and borrowed resources, establishing a contract with him in secret. After returning, he used to immortal blessed land to connect to treasure yellow heaven, exchanging for the relevant Gu worms and food, and during the 6th day, the flying bear phantom Gu was restored to its healthy state. By the 7th day, Fang Yuan secretly entered the 7th floor of 88 Truyang Building, personally testing the flying bear phantom Gu and the finalized killer move 6-arm heavenly zombie king. Fang Yuan ordered the flying bear phantom Gu to attack him without holding back, while he himself used the 6-arm heavenly zombie king to fight back. Flying bear phantom Gu was an immortal Gu, it had half the battle strength of the flying bear, but it was not Fang Yuan's match when he was in 6-arm heavenly zombie king mode. Fang Yuan was very satisfied with this result. He thought about it in his mind. The killer move 6-arm heavenly zombie king is indeed formidable. It uses borrow strength Gu as the core to borrow the natural strength of heaven, earth, fire, water and others, sustaining itself by allowing a steady and endless torrent of strength to be supplied. Most amazingly, it can transform my body into a zombie's body temporarily. This way, my body will be in a half-dead state, my recovery speed will increase greatly and my sense of pain will reduce, I would be in the state of near unlimited energy and strength, I can do anything. If it was an ordinary living body, constantly using strength would tire it out. But by becoming a heavenly zombie, Fang Yuan could avoid such a weakness. This kind of strength and feeling was intoxicating for Fang Yuan, but it also made him more alert. I can only maintain this form for a short period of time. During intense battle, I will have to commit to the battle fully and I would not recognize the flow of time. Although this killer move is great and gives me a good feeling, it is easy to get addicted and lost when using it. I must never forget the time limit of this killer move, otherwise the consequences would be severe. The killer move 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King was powerful, but had a time limit. Once the time limit was exceeded, the Gu Master might turn into a real zombie from overusage. The severity of this surpassed even the 10 extreme physiques disaster. Even if he used the yin-yang rotation Gu, he could not recover. Fang Yuan wanted to get rid of this weakness, but Mo Yao's requirements were too strict. Fang Yuan could not find a suitable person to test the Gu. Actually, you have not fully unleashed the true power of this flying bear phantom Gu. At this time, Mo Yao's will in Fang Yuan's mind spoke. Oh, what do you mean? Mo Yao had some understanding regarding Phantom Path. Phantom Path, it focuses on the forms of Phantom and Solid. During the initial stage from rank 1 to 5, Phantom is the foundation, using Phantom form to avoid attacks. Thus, Phantom Path Gu Masters often lack attacking power, but have ample defensive measures. But at rank 6 and above, Phantom Path Gu Immortals have both offense and defense. By turning into Phantom and Solid form at will, they can go into the defensive Phantom mode, nullifying all forms of attacks, and also turn Phantom into Solid, attacking people when they least expect it. The Flying Bear Phantom Gu is a Phantom Path Immortal Gu. It was created by killing the desolate beast Flying Bear and using all of its skin, bones, flesh, blood, and soul to refine it. Just the Flying Bear Phantom Gu alone has half the strength of the real Flying Bear. But if it was given accompanying Gu worms, like the Battle Space Gu, Grand Chaotic Dance Gu, 5-element Bear Skin Gu and others, its battle strength would surge greatly. Mo Yao's words made Fang Yuan nod repeatedly. He recalled the fight when they were at the final round. Precisely because of the Flying Bear Phantom's Gu worms could it have a huge boost in battle strength, even causing the band of experts to be helpless. But after the battle, Battle Space Gu was taken by He Lulan, and the remaining Gu worms were also taken by other people. Fang Yuan was fighting the Flying Bear Phantom alone in secret. The Flying Bear Phantom had no Gu worms left, thus, Fang Yuan could have the upper hand when fighting. He had some degree of comprehension in this, looking at it from another angle. Complementing the Flying Bear Phantom Gu with other Gu worms is exactly like using multiple Gu worms at once. Isn't this a killer move? Killer moves are a Gu Master's unique creation, using many Gu worms at the same time together to create an effect greater than when used individually, unleashing great strength. Mo Yao nodded in agreement. Your comprehension is completely right, that is so. However, what truly complements the Flying Bear Phantom Gu are only Phantom Path Gu worms. Forget the rest. Just a single turn Phantom Gu would allow the Flying Bear Phantom Gu to turn from solid to Phantom form, evading all sorts of attacks. Turn Phantom Gu. Fang Yuan's heart shook uncontrollably. He could completely imagine that when the turn Phantom Gu is used with the Flying Bear Phantom Gu, it would become an extremely troublesome enemy. This could transform the usage of Flying Bear Phantom Gu completely, achieving a true qualitative change to a degree. Mo Yao laughed lightly, saying, "Lad, as long as you return Water Pavilion to Spirit Affinity House properly, I will tell you the details of 3 Phantom Path inheritances. Among them, one is likely to be a Phantom Path Gu Immortal inheritance. We'll talk about that later." Fang Yuan calmed down, replying in a plain tone. The origin of this chapter's debut can be traced to N0, Vel, B, J, N. He had never removed his alertness towards Mo Yao. Although Mo Yao did not display any hostile intentions, Fang Yuan had always felt a sense of danger in his heart. Chapter 587, The Vast Difference Between Immortal and Mortal. Time passed by rapidly and a month had passed. Northern Plains. The wind raged and snow fluttered around. The world was a scene of white as the white snow covered the large grassland. Bone-chilling wind blew everywhere, occasionally, it would form into a tornado and occasionally, it would lift the deep snow on the ground. Every 10 years, the blizzard disaster devastated the whole of northern plains. Living beings lamented and all things turned destitute. At a few limited places, the surviving humans and animals were struggling for their lives. They not only had to overcome the frigid climate, but also needed to engage in fierce combat against snow monsters and other battles. However, in such a cruel environment, snowmen were like fish in water, moving very frequently and becoming extremely lively. The ice-cold blizzard was merely a warm spring wind to snowmen. They hunted in this blizzard, and large numbers of wild snow path, ice path and water path Gu worms started to live one after another on their body. The snowmen tribes who were hunted by the Gu masters, beaten down and sold during normal times, were now experiencing enormous growth. Their forces expanded rapidly. In the raging blizzard, two dark figures appeared. The dark figures stood on a cliff, overflowing with immortal aura. They were He tribe's two Gu immortals, He Bai and He Cheng. They looked down towards the valley under them. The blizzard was still wild, but it was not even able to sway the two's clothes. The snow fluttered madly, but was not able to obstruct the two's probing gazes. In the valley, many ice houses were built, packed together with the numbers reaching several tens of thousands. A group of heroic snowmen warriors had just returned from their hunt. They had returned with great harvests once again. Rank 6 Woodpath Gu Immortal He Bai frowned. This group of snowmen is taking advantage of this time period to grow so rapidly. In these 3 days, this is already the 7th tribe we have seen of such a scale. Those who are not my race have different motives. Although snowmen had men in their name, they were still variant humans. When the blizzard ends, northern plains tribes would actively start developing, which was bound to result in many large battles with these snowmen. To human tribes, such a large number of snowmen meant their enemy was more in number and stronger. He Cheng patted He Bai's shoulder, smiling. Virtuous brother should be happy. Looking at it from another angle, these snowmen are our wealth. We can take these snowmen as captives and not only exchange them for immortal essence stones with other Gu immortals, we can also give Xianxia something to cry about. The corners of He Bai's lips raised to an arc. Elder brother thinks in a comprehensive way. If not for Xianxia, the wooden chicken Gu would have already been in my hands. And he even meddled in the last imperial court contest. These days, we have been hunting snowmen everywhere and selling them in treasure yellow heaven. I really want to see how Xianxia's expression is like now. But the moment he finished saying this, his smile disappeared and his gaze revealed a trace of anxiety. Elder brother, He Lulan has already been in imperial court for so long, and according to the time, 88 Truyang building should have already formed over 20 floors. Why is there still no trace of wooden chicken Gu? The initial instance of this chapter being available happened at N0v3L.bin. He Cheng laughed. Do not fret, do not fret. 88 Truyang building has altogether 88 floors, this is not much. He Lulan, this kid might have an irascible temper, but he is meticulous when it comes to the big picture. He hasn't broken off the contact with us since he entered imperial court, isn't that right? Moreover, he now already has one edge owner token. As long as wooden chicken Gu is involved in the creation of a new floor, He Lulan can sense it, and we will receive the news. He tribe was a super force, although they did not have ability in exploiting the flaws that could match the level of Fairy Mo Yao, they had their own ways to use Gu worms to transfer messages inside and out. He by side, Imperial Court blessed land and northern plains outside world have differing time flow. A day here in the outside world is equal to over 20 days in Imperial Court blessed land. I am somewhat worried He Lulan's notice will be late, and if so, the help we can provide will be small. He Cheng comforted with a smile. Virtuous brother, the more you worry, the more frantic you will get. Relax, according to He Lulan's strength, getting through 3 or 4 floors would not be a problem. Before this, we'd better take care of this group of snowmen. Okay. Bai's worry was slightly relieved, as he nodded. The two shot down like lightning, directly charging into the snowman tribe within the valley. Ching chuckled. Instantly, an unrestrained laughter shook the world, stopping even the moving clouds. The whole valley buzzed from the tremor, and the majestic snowfall also slowed. Crash, crash, crash. The sound wave swept through the valley, crushing countless ice buildings into fine powder. The snowman tribe instantly suffered serious losses. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. A strong enemy has appeared. Warriors, it is time to protect our homeland. Protect our homeland. Remember, we cannot fall down, behind us are our wives, children and parents. Snowmen were in an uproar, and after a short moment of panic, they prepared to resist. Humph, overestimating your strength. Bai looked at the snowmen flocking together while floating in midair, his gaze apathetic like he was looking at a group of ants. He lightly waves his sleeve, buzz buzz buzz. A black mass of goo groups flew out. First the number was in hundreds, then thousands, then it reached tens of thousands. Finally, the several hundreds of thousands of goo hovered over the valley like dark clouds pressing down on a city. The snowmen looked at the sky, their expression filled with terror and lifelessness. The fighting spirit and heroic feelings they raised up just a moment ago, froze completely in front of a goo immortal's might. At this moment, they were truly able to feel the bone-piercing chill of the blizzard. Goo immortals possessed immortal essence. A bead of immortal essence could be regarded as unlimited primeval essence. This meant every single goo immortal could control large numbers of mortal goo, and would never be lacking in primeval essence. The snowman tribes might be flourishing, but in front of a goo immortal's battle strength, they were like lambs waiting for slaughter and could only let themselves be trampled upon. Next moment, Bai lightly pointed and the goo groups pounced down loudly. Mournful sounds started resounding and echoing endlessly in the valley. A dozen or so days later. Imperial Court blessed land. Lu Lan slowly put down the letter Gu in his hand, sneering. The letter Gu came from tribe Gu Immortal. Its content was the same as before, still urging Lu Lan to speed up the search for wooden chicken Gu. There was originally no way to send messages from or to Imperial Court blessed land, but after so many years had gone by, even if it was an arrangement by Giant Sun Immortal Venerable, it could not stand the erosion of the river of time, and a few flaws appeared. Although they did not have capability in exploiting this on Fairy Mo Yao's level, the super forces like tribe and Lu tribe had polished the methods to send the message. Once a Gu master advances to an immortal, their physique would thoroughly raise to a higher level and would possess immortal essence. Mortals simply cannot be an immortal's opponent. To deal with Gu immortal requires a Gu immortal. Strength Path Immortal Gu. Lu Lan softly muttered, then slowly stood up from his seat and walked towards the window. He looked up at the gorgeous aurora moving at the summit of the sacred palace. 88 Truyang Building's newest floor had condensed at this moment. 38th floor. Lu Lan sighed. Having seen this scene so many times, he no longer had the excitement like before when he saw it for the first time. But his esteem towards old ancestor Giant Sun had now reached the level of prostrating himself in admiration before the old ancestor's heavenly methods every time he saw the scene of Truyang Building condensing a floor. Only with 88 Truyang Building and old ancestor Giant Sun's power, I can take my revenge. Lu Lan took out his owner token. So much time had passed by, but his owner token was still one edge owner token. Lu Lan knew of history and also knew his own strength. The current forces, compared to the past winners of the Imperial Court contest, were not bad but also could not be considered too good. Taking everything into account, it was only enough to cross 3-4 floors. He Lu Lan wanted to acquire his strength path immortal Gu, but also had the tribe responsibility of getting wooden chicken immortal Gu. This meant the quota for 2 clearances was already filled. Hence, these days, he restrained himself from taking action, making recuperation his priority, and at the same time, he still opened up 88 True Yang building, letting Gu masters increase their strength as much as possible. Naturally, he did this to make the Gu masters, outside of He tribe, thankful and admire him. And naturally, many among He tribe were dissatisfied and puzzled by it, but mindful of Black Tyrant's fierce reputation, none dared to speak up. Messenger. He Lu Lan softly called. His trusted aide He Shu immediately appeared before him and quietly kneeled down, speaking with a lowered head, Lord Tribe Leader, please instruct. How is the recent situation? He Lu Lan rubbed the owner token, his gaze still at 88 True Yang building. The situation looks to be steady recently, but undercurrents are starting to surge. Chang tribe's Gu masters have repeatedly been killed, many Gu masters have mysteriously disappeared when going out. Chang tribe leader Chang Jiyu has personally moved out, searching everywhere to capture the killers, but no gains have been made. Instead, the attacks on Chang tribe's Gu masters have become even more serious. He Shu reported. Who has such guts? He Shu revealed an ashamed expression, subordinate is still investigating. He Lu Lan slightly nodded, his tone revealing some slight joy in another's calamity, no need to hurry, we shouldn't hurry in this matter. Chang Shanyan's actions are too sinister and cruel, losing favor with people, and now he is tasting the bitter consequences. A few months ago, he wiped out the Earth Chief Beast Group and assigned Chang tribe's Gu masters to capture many Gu masters, and he actually killed all of them. This had already aroused public anger, but fearing Wolf King's reputation, no one dared to take actions though they had the heart for revenge. He Lu Lan remembered this clearly. Because, among these unlucky Gu masters Fang Yuan captured to do experiments on, were some people who had some relations to He Lu Lan. Wolf King actually did not give him face and killed these people, He Lu Lan had secretly been bearing this grudge all this time. Tribe leader is wise, subordinate and others also think this is the case. He Shu flattered and said in agreement, Chang tribe leader might be Chang Jiyu, but he is Wolf King's son and was appointed as the tribe leader with one sentence from Wolf King. He is too young and cannot appease the tribesmen. The whole of Chang tribe's affairs actually lie with Chang Jiyu's godfather Chang Biao. But not long ago, the death of the 2 lords Chang Biao and Pan Ping while roaming 7th floor's 90th round, had spread. There was an indistinct commotion within Chang tribe and Chang Jiyu has been finding it hard to maintain Chang tribe's situation. The Avenger saw this great opportunity, and maybe because they had received a great increase in strength from 88 True Yang buildings rewards, they have been killing Chang tribe's Gu masters everywhere. He Lu Lan nodded. He Shu's analysis was similar to his own thoughts. Quickly investigate this person. Taking revenge wholeheartedly in spite of Wolf King's fierceness, this is bravery. Killing Chang tribe's Gu masters and not being found even after so many days, this is scheming. This person is brave and can scheme, they should be taken into my He tribe. And also, only my He tribe can protect their life. He Lu Lan instructed. Yes, Lord. Are there any movements from Chang Shanyin? Ever since Chang Biao's corpse was found and delivered to Chang tribe, maybe Wolf King found some clues from the corpse, he entered 88 True Yang building that very day and has yet to come out now. Subordinate had sent people to inquire, Wolf King should have gone to 7th floor's 90th maze round. Ever since he entered, people have often reported hearing the howls of wolf groups. He Shu reported. He Lu Lan frowned. Chang Biao, Pan Ping and Water Demon Hao Ji Lu's deaths were something he had not wanted to see. But since they were already dead, He Lu Lan could only accept this fact. He could complete forecast once Wolf King exited the tower and knew of Chang tribe's misfortunes, he would fly up in rage, searching for the killer. At that time, the whole sacred palace might be turned upside down. He Lu Lan was looking forward to Wolf King attracting every more public anger, but he worried Wolf King would even implicate the innocents and start massacring everywhere, which would greatly weaken the forces to mobilize in passing the rounds. He Lu Lan must prevent this from happening. But how to prevent it? He Lu Lan fell into silence as he started thinking. He Shu was calmly kneeling down, patiently waiting for He Lu Lan's next command. He Lu Lan did not think for long before an amazed expression appeared on his face. His gaze instantly turned sharp as he once again looked at 88 True Yang building on the summit of the sacred palace. There, the 39th floor was slowly condensing into shape. Although it had yet to form, He Lu Lan was able to know the Gu worms in this floor through his one-edge owner token. Wooden Chicken Gu. Wooden Chicken Gu has finally appeared. He Lu Lan's mind was shaken, but soon he calmed down and his gaze quickly moved towards He Shu. Go, summon Ma Ying-jia to see me. Immediately. Chapter 588, Each with Their Schemes. Ma Ying-jia heard the summons and quickly hurried to pay a visit. As He tribe's greatest opponent, Ma tribe had suffered disastrous losses in the decisive battle. Ma tribe's experts were almost completely annihilated, but the young tribe leader Ma Ying-jia was luckily rescued and bravely rose to take the great responsibility of a tribe leader. His original plan had been to hole up in Warm Pond Valley and recover as much as possible. But He Lu Lan brought his army to the valley and forcibly annexed Ma tribe. Thus, Ma tribe had not alternative but to follow He tribe to Imperial Court Blessed Land. Ma Ying-jia had thought He Lu Lan wanted to get rid of Ma tribe's name and completely swallow Ma tribe. For this reason, he expended great effort and even accepted outsiders, giving them the surname Ma. But the situation he had anticipated never happened. Not only this, Ma tribe did not receive any severe duties from He Lu Lan's side even after arriving at Imperial Court Blessed Land, instead they were treated without discrimination. He Lu Lan selflessly opened up 88 True Yang building to the public from where Ma tribe had obtained many gains. Right now, the whole of Ma tribe was able to recover favorably and the tribe's forces were prospering day by day. However, there was no free lunch in the world. Ma Ying-jia had been on tenterhooks because of this. With He Lu Lan's sudden summons, the unease in his heart immediately increased several times, reaching the extreme limit. He Lu Lan smiled when he looked at Ma Ying-jia. Ma tribe leader, has Ma tribe been well these days? Ma Ying-jia was on guard inwardly and immediately replied, it is good. We must thank you, Lord Tribe Leader, for disregarding previous enmity in being magnanimous. Ma tribe was on its last breath, but now has recovered some vitality. If I am not wrong, Ma tribe received help from Snowy Mountain Blessed Land's demonic path immortal Shui Song Zi in this contest, right? He Lu Lan asked amiably. Ma Ying-jia was tongue-tied, cold sweat started flowing down from his body, and he was not able to speak a word. Ma tribe, who possessed Huang Jin bloodline, privately joined hands with a demonic path Gu immortal. This undoubtedly broke the rules ancestor Giant Sun had set. Is He Lu Lan looking to settle the score at this time? Damn it, right now, he holds the knife while I am the fish. He only needs to casually say a sentence and Ma tribe would be finished. Ma Ying-jia was very nervous. Revitalizing Ma tribe was his wish. Ma tribe was what he cherished most in his life. Ha ha ha. He Lu Lan laughed heartily, his laughter resounding in the study. Ma tribe leader, no need to worry, as long as you cooperate obediently, glory and riches will come gushing forth. Tribe leader, please explain. Ma Ying-jia gnashed his teeth. A wise man submits to circumstances. With such a pressing situation, he had no choice but to lower his head. What? However, He Lu Lan's next words shocked Ma Ying-jia, his dumbstruck expression frozen like a statue. Snowy mountain blessed land. The lofty snowy mountain peeked through the clouds. The clear blue sky shone with dazzling brilliance. On the fifth branch peak of the mountain range, within the Ice Lake Palace, a negotiation was reaching its end. Xianxia's expression was worried as he looked at Demon Lord Long Dan, saying impatiently, "Demon Lord, don't forget who it was that lent you immortal essence stones and settled your debt during your emergency. It was me. Now I have some small troubles and am asking you for help, but you are using all sorts of excuses. Isn't this too disappointing? Is the Grand Demon Lord Long Dan such a petty person?" Demon Lord Long Dan sipped his tea with a smile, his tone calm. "Lord Xianxia, please speak cautiously. The friendship from before, I still remember and have not forgotten even a little. But this time, Lord Xianxia, your troubles are not small. If I helped you, it would be offending Daoist Gu immortals. My business at Treasure Yellow Heaven has just recently taken somewhat of a turn for the better, it cannot endure such an attack." Xianxia made a living out of selling snowmen and had made a lot of wealth. But in these recent months, his business at Treasure Yellow Heaven was intensely impacted by Daoist Gu immortals wantonly hunted snowmen and sold them at low prices, destroying the established standards and benefits of selling snowmen slaves. This was an unconventional confrontation and would implicate extensively on him. Xianxia could only take up the challenge to protect his source of revenue, and was barely able to draw a stalemate against Daoist Gu immortals. Although he had riches, but he was after all only a lone force. To a super force like Daoist, which had been engaging in business over thousands of years, he paled by comparison. Thus, he was gradually unable to bear it and began to request help from the surrounding Gu immortals. Demon Lord Long Dan's calm appearance made Xianxia angry and anxious. "Demon Lord, don't beat around the bush, speak up, how can I make you take action?" Demon Lord Long Dan laughed heartily, his bright eyes stared at Xianxia. "Lord Xianxia, I know you have 100-year lifespan Gu in your possession. As long as you give it to me, I will definitely use all my strength to help you." Xianxia immediately stood up from the seat and pointed at Demon Lord Long Dan. "Do you feel no shame in making such a request?" Demon Lord Long Dan raised his brows and said with a gloomy voice, "Why would I feel shame? Who would make a move without good cause? Xianxia, I persuade you to not be impulsive. If you point your finger at me again, I will start to get angry." "Humph." Xianxia knew he was not Demon Lord Long Dan's match and lowered his finger with a snort, then he flicked his sleeve and left. Demon Lord Long Dan also did not make him stay, looking darkly at his receding figure before letting out a snort. He had already disliked Xianxia for his ordinarily arrogant attitude whilst holding plenty of spare wealth. Back then, when he asked for immortal essence stones from Xianxia actually dared to lend at an exorbitant rate of interest. Demon Lord Long Dan had suffered a big loss and had always been keeping it in his mind. Xianxia returned to his seventh branch peak with an ashen expression. He sat on a mat, and with no others present, his tight expression finally relaxed as he heaved a deep sigh. "If I had known this before, I would not have meddled in the Imperial Court contest." He regretted it deeply. Winner takes all. Previously, he had invested a lot in the Imperial Court contest, but received no gains. Now, Daoist Gu immortals were making it difficult for him, and he was not even able to guard his own financial source, which was the basis of his status. In the end, it is still the righteous path who are united while demonic path has separated minds. Snowy Mountain Blessed Land has so many demonic path Gu immortals, but I cannot obtain the help from even one. In contrast, Daoist Gu immortals involve the assistance of many forces and are suppressing me together. Sigh, in this battle, my many years of accumulation have all been used up, resulting in serious losses to me. The water in the Imperial Court contest runs too deep, it is not something I can tread upon. So many demonic path Gu immortals had involved themselves in imperial court contests before, but how many obtained a good ending? Sigh, I got greedy because of wooden chicken Gu and thought that since I had already offended Hay Tribe's Gu immortals, I might as well directly go further and meddle. But I did not know how many demonic path Gu immortals were mocking me behind my back. Sigh, it is time to reflect upon myself. Zi kept on sighing, and just when he was going to finish pondering his painful experience in attempting to learn from it, a letter Gu traveled through space and appeared in front of him. Isn't this the letter Gu I gave to my tribe to contact me? Zi was baffled. He held the letter Gu and searched it with his mind before immediately revealing an astonished expression. What does this mean? He Lulan actually wants to cooperate with me. Zi scoffed in disdain, using wooden chicken Gu as the bait. Do you think I will be fooled? Maybe this is another scheme of He tribe. Wait a moment, does He Lulan really want to work with me? Interesting, interesting. After over half a month. Mother! He Lulan suddenly woke up on the bed. He was panting and his body was soaked with cold sweat. A good while later, his eyes gradually recovered their focus. The nightmare once again. Since long ago, this nightmare had been tormenting him. This nightmare was like a pile of firewood that ignited the fire of revenge in his heart, every time it occurred. Recovering his breath, He Lulan got up from the bed. His body was obese like a black bear. His triangular eyes began flickering with terrifying sharp light. Only his face had the expression of heavy exhaustion. But by the time he pushed open the window, this exhaustion was already concealed by him, replaced by a savage and tyrannical aura. He gazed up at 88 Truyang Building while pondering over the cooperation with Zi. In the letter, he had taken great risk, speaking his greatest secret and delivering crucial Gu worms as a pledge, before he was able to obtain Zi's trust. Now, the 39th floor had already been formed for quite some time. The cooperation between him and Zi was progressing very well. Benefiting from this demonic path Gu immortal's help, He Lulan was able to smoothly break through the rounds in the 39th floor. His action was betraying He tribe. He tribe's Gu immortals would absolutely not let him go. He Lulan did not even have the confidence of being able to conceal this matter for long. But he knew clearly, he was safe as long as he was within Imperial Court Blessed Land. Imperial Court Blessed Land prohibited the entry of Gu immortals. At this stage, he was no longer able to turn back and could only move forward until his death. But the most crucial thing in He Lulan's plan, the strength path immortal Gu which could change the whole situation, was yet to appear. He could only continue to wait. 88 Truyang Building, 7th floor. 90th round. Chang Ji-yu pays respects to Lord Supreme Elder. Chang Ji-yu kneeled down with an ashamed expression. Do you know why I called you? Fang Yuan stood in front of him, and said in an indifferent tone. I am ashamed, I failed to live up to Lord Supreme Elder's trust. I am extremely incompetent, letting the killer get away with it to this day. Muffled thuds sounded out as his forehead smashed on the ground. Soon, blood could be seen on his forehead. Fang Yuan snorted, you know yourself and know your incompetence. Don't kowtow anymore, stand up and answer. Subordinate does not dare. Get up. Fang Yuan emphasized once again, his tone was calm but it was filled with a will that could not be disobeyed. Chang Ji-yu stood up with his head lowered, blood slowly flowed down his cheeks, making him look very miserable. Sigh. Fang Yuan sighed softly before touching the wound on Chang Ji-yu's forehead. White light appeared, and under the power of a healing Gu, Chang Ji-yu's wound rapidly healed without even leaving a scar. Chang Ji-yu's body trembled, his eyes couldn't help but release two flowing lines of warm tears. Ever since the father and son had met, this was the first time Chang Shan-yin had done such an intimate action to his son Chang Ji-yu. Chapter 589, The Bond Between Father and Son, Real and Fake Affection. Fang Yuan wiped Chang Ji-yu's tears and said with a mild tone like a spring wind, "What are you crying for? I am Wolf King and you are my son, you can only shed blood and not tears." Chang Ji-yu's mind shook fiercely like he had been struck by lightning, when he heard the word son. An enormous joy engulfed Chang Ji-yu's mind like a tsunami. Father finally recognizes me as his son, he called me son with his own mouth. The grievances that had accumulated in his heart, the pressure he felt, the anger and shame he had put aside, the sorrow at his adoptive father's death, everything was dispelled at this moment. He involuntarily was about to cry tears of joy, but Fang Yuan's words lingered in his ears and he endured painfully, his expression twisted and he even bit his lips, but the tears still flowed out with no end. He opened his mouth, wanting to call out, "Father," but did not dare, and could only keep on apologizing as he sobbed, "Sorry, I am sorry." Fang Yuan lightly patted his shoulder and warmly said, "Do you know what your greatest deficiency is?" Chang Ji-yu was slightly shocked. Fang Yuan continued with a decisive tone, "Your greatest deficiency is that you are not strong enough." Not strong enough? Chang Ji-yu stopped sobbing, his eyes that were hazy with tears looked at the imposing figure in front. "This is a yellow gold relic Gu, enough for you to advance to rank 4 peak stage. Also a purple crystal relic Gu which will help you advance rapidly in rank 5. Fang Yuan took out 2 relic Gu and handed them to Chang Ji-yu. Chang Ji-yu dazedly accepted it, soon a surging grateful feeling filled his wild heart. Isn't this paternal love? So many poets praised paternal love to be as heavy as a mountain and as deep as the sea, I can finally enjoy it today. Father. Chang Ji-yu was choked with emotions, he gazed at Fang Yuan before kneeling down again. An eagle chick cannot grow firm, iron-like wings without going through the tempering of wind and frost. A horse foal cannot run like the wind without experiencing falling down. I have already heard of Chang tribe's misfortunes, but I will not concern myself with it. Become strong, go through such temperings, take control of the tribe, use this pretext to establish your might, this is something you need to do. I will be watching you from behind. Lord Father, son is ashamed. Being given such earnest attention by his blood-related father, this made Chang Ji-yu excited and also brought a fearful feeling in him. Fang Yuan waved his hand, "I know your misgivings. You are worried your aptitude is not enough and you cannot break through to rank 5, right? No problem, I will now raise your aptitude and also impart you a strength path killer move set which will increase your strength to an unimaginable level. This is Father's special skill and even at the decisive battle of Imperial Court, I only used 30% of its power." Ah! Chang Ji-yu involuntarily opened up his mouth, shocked and happy. Father actually had ways to raise aptitude, moreover was also imparting a strength path killer move. Even during the decisive battle with Ma tribe, Father only used 30% of this killer move's power. My father is after all my father. Godfather Chang Biao might have treated me very well, but that is nothing compared to my father. This is the deepest bond between blood. Lord Father is nurturing me with all his efforts. After the shock, Chang Ji-yu felt a surge of happiness. Now I am going to raise your aptitude. Relax your mind, pacify your heart. Sleep, take a good sleep first. Fang Yuan spoke gently while secretly using hypnosis Gu. Chang Ji-yu's mood was not stable and he had already been exhausted, and with his extreme trust in Fang Yuan, he soon fell asleep under the effect of Gu worm. Fang Yuan lightly smiled as he took out Blood Skull Gu. This Gu had a crystal-like texture, the size of an infant's skull and could be held by a palm. But right now, it was full from drinking blood and shone with a demonic blood light. This blood was absorbed from the Chang tribesman Fong Yuan had secretly killed over these days. The sound asleep Chang Ji had a slight smile on his face, a happy smile. He had never even expected the killer who had assassinated Chang tribesmen in these days was his most loved and respected, blood-related father. Even He Lulan and other outsiders were also in the dark, not having the least bit of doubt towards Fong Yuan. Go! Fong Yuan willed and the blood skull Gu slowly flew out of his palm and circled around Chang Ji. The blood skull Gu then stopped over Chang Ji's head. It opened its mouth and puffed out blood with a thick stench. The blood directly sunk in through Chang Ji's head, skin and hairs, followed his veins and finally converged in his aperture. Chang Ji's aperture began to slowly but steadily advance. By the time Chang Ji woke up, Fong Yuan had already gone away. The previous encounter was like a dream, making Chang Ji feel doubts. But the goo worms on the ground and plentiful food left behind, were the best proof that everything was true. Heavens, my aptitude really advanced, now it is at 96%. Chang Ji shouted out with joy after he checked his aperture. Stay here for a few days and cultivate properly. Use all the relic goo father left behind, your cultivation will reach rank 5 upper stage with these. I am temporarily lending the other goo worms on the ground to you. Among them is an east window goo which records the contents of the killer move, read it and practice it. A message echoed into Chang Ji's ears. Chang Ji was extremely excited. Ah, this is Father's voice. Lord Father, Son will not disappoint you. Son will definitely become a rank 5 goo master and master this killer move. Chang Ji felt extremely bold and was filled with fighting spirit. He sat down cross-legged on the spot and took a yellow gold relic goo into his aperture. Fong Yuan was secretly observing this. This is the goo tester you chose. He is truly a good choice. In his mind, Mo Yao's will let out a cold sneer. It is only that you clearly indicated the flaws of 6-armed heavenly zombie king in the east window goo. And you have also not tampered with the goo worms you lent him. Are you not afraid he will worry about the flaws and be careful, not completely transforming into a heavenly zombie? Hehe, Mo Yao, you don't need to worry. I still have the ability to grasp people's hearts. You haven't used 6-armed heavenly zombie king, so you don't know how intoxicating the feeling of endless strength you get when transforming to the heavenly zombie state can be. Even I was intoxicated. Chang Ji is young and does not have enough control over his heart. When he practices the killer move, he will naturally search for wolf groups to battle with. This here is my territory, I will just lead more wolves towards him when the time comes, no need to be afraid he won't change into a heavenly zombie. Fong Yuan spoke with confidence. Humph, you humans are so sinister and crafty. This blood skull goo you used, we ink men would absolutely never refine such an evil goo worm which is used to harm our own people. Mo Yao sneered. Fong Yuan was not angry, instead smiling. Aren't you Spirit Affinity House's fairy, a representative of the righteous path? Why didn't you stop me? That is possible only if I had the ability to stop it. Moreover, why would I stop the internal conflicts between you humans? Humph, I would rather the whole of your human race died. Then, us variant humans can have space to survive. Mo Yao rolled her eyes. Her identity was special, she was a past generation's fairy of Spirit Affinity House with an extraordinary relationship with Bo Qing. However, she was also an Inkman and was not a purebred human. The feeling with which she looked at humans fighting each other was the same feeling humans had when they watched internal strife between snowmen or beast groups. Just that, you truly don't have the ability to stop me? Fong Yuan suppressed this doubt within his heart. 3 days later, Chang Ji finished using all the relic goo and succeeded in advancing to rank 5 upper stage. N0v3L Realm was the platform where this chapter was initially revealed on N0v3L.B1N. Immediately afterwards, he began to practice the killer move Six-Armed Heavenly Zombie King. Just like Fang Yuan expected, he was addicted to the vast power of the killer move and gradually began to forget its flaws. Under Fang Yuan's intentional manipulation, he fought an intense and prolonged battle. Chang Jiyu rampaged around to his heart's content in the battle, forgetting the time. Only when the battle ended, did he make a frightening discovery: he had already completely transformed into a heavenly zombie. 2 days later, Fang Yuan appeared before him again. "Father, save me." The monstrous Chang Jiyu kneeled on the ground and begged with terrified expression. "Son, how did you become like this?" Fang Yuan asked in great shock and rage. "I clearly warned you to never use this killer move over the limit. How could you forget such a crucial thing?" "Father, son is ashamed, I was muddled for a while and forgot time. By the time I discovered it, it was too late for regret." Chang Jiyu was extremely ashamed as he looked at Fang Yuan with tear-filled eyes while kneeling. Right now, he had transformed into this monstrosity. His only hope rested in Fang Yuan. "Sigh, this is difficult. Your appearance, even if we use yin-yang rotation Gu, it won't be able to treat it. This killer move has extreme power, but also because of this, the after effects are very severe. Even father does not have a way." Fang Yuan held out his hands, showing an expression filled with sadness and anger. "Ah! Even father does not have a solution." Chang Jiyu walked towards Fang Yuan on his knees with despair and fear on his face. Fang Yuan lamented again and again, "This killer move's origin is not simple. Father took extreme risk and charged through a Gu immortal's inheritance alone, risking a fatal danger before I was able to luckily obtain this immortal killer move." "This is an immortal killer move. No wonder it is so powerful." Chang Jiyu was stupefied. Fang Yuan might have a lofty figure in his heart, but there was no doubt he paled in comparison to a Gu immortal. Chang Jiyu had been Chang tribe's young tribe leader. He had not been familiar with Gu immortals, but was also not completely unfamiliar. "I was wrong, I made a big mistake. How could I seek instant gains?" Chang Jiyu wailed. His wail was sharp and unpleasant like a night owl's. Suddenly, he started kowtowing to Fang Yuan and sobbed, "Father, son failed to live up to your hope. Son made a mistake, son has disappointed you. No, it is this, I needed you to transform into this." Fang Yuan was laughing inwardly while on the surface, he supported Chang Jiyu. "My son, I told you so many times, don't cry. You cannot cry. Although you made a mistake, the fault lies within me as well. I have only been exploring this maze round over these days and did not look after you. Father believes there is always a way out. We will research together and find a way to turn you back into a human. There is definitely a way, believe in father and believe in yourself." Fang Yuan said with emotions, with tears in his eyes. "Father." Chang Jiyu wailed again. He was thoroughly and completely moved. He had become a monster and he, himself, did not dare to see his face. But his father, Chang Shan, did not loathe him. It was clearly the son's fault, but he took the blame upon himself. Now that his son had changed to such an appearance, he still did not give up on him. This is the most profound bond between father and son. This is my father, my dad. Chang Jiyu was extremely moved, a spark ignited in his despair-filled heart, giving him the confidence to continue living. "Son, stay here and let father think properly on how to change you back. As for Chang tribe, father will personally manage it. You don't need to worry, just recuperate here, with us father and son working hand in hand. What is there to fear about a measly killer move's zombie transformation?" Fang Yuan's words made Chang Jiyu feel a source of assurance in his heart. Yes, son will listen to father. Chapter 590, Endurance, Shatter, Death. Ah! The pitiful scream was so shrill that it could pierce eardrums. Chang Jiyu was in so much pain that he was shivering from head to toe, his muscles were exploding, as the 6 arms behind his back were dancing around chaotically, making loud sounds like that of stirring wind and rolling thunder. But Fong Yuan only needed one hand to hold him tightly in the air. At this moment, his eyes were like lightning as he manipulated his gu worms, shouting loudly, "My son, endure it. Now is the time." Chang Jiyu was about to lose his sense of reasoning due to the pain. This was an inhuman pain. Even though he transformed into a heavenly zombie and almost lost his sense of pain, he could still feel every single piece of his skin and every muscle tearing and breaking ruthlessly. But Fong Yuan's words were like cold spring water that were sprinkling on Chang Jiyu's heart. Chang Jiyu was forcing himself to his limit. Just as he was about to faint, the intense pain dissipated like a subsiding tide. Success. Chang Jiyu breathed roughly, his head was hurting intensely and he barely managed to open his eyes, seeing that the skin on his arm had already turned back into living flesh and blood. In fact, the 6 arms on his back were also slowly shrinking. There was nothing more attractive to Chang Jiyu than turning back into a human. This moment, he was almost going to cry of joy. "Oh no!" Suddenly, Fong Yuan spoke, his tone extremely solemn. Chang Jiyu's newly recovered arm turned back into the heavenly zombie state in an instant, like that of a rotting log. The 6 arms on his back grew back as well, becoming tougher and stronger. "No, no. Why did I change back? Father." Chang Jiyu was screaming in fear, subconsciously turning towards Fong Yuan for help. But when he saw the intense fatigue that Fong Yuan was pretending to show on his face, Chang Jiyu could not say a word. "Father is tired." "That's right, these days, he had been helping me, thinking of hundreds of methods to solve this without any rest or sleep. He expended countless gu worms in the process. I saw at least 70 to 80 rank 5 gu. What reason do I have to blame father? This is all because I was too careless, and committed a grave mistake. Father, this son has not lived up to your expectations and nurturing." Chang Jiyu was heartbroken and ashamed. He had a sensation of bliss from being taken care of by Wolf King as his child, like a small strand of grass being shielded by a tall tree. Damn it, this heavenly zombie form is really stubborn. Even this method is not working. Fong Yuan gritted his teeth secretly. He asked in his mind, "Mo Yao, what other ideas do you have, tell me." The dozen ideas that Fong Yuan came up with were all proven to be useless one by one. The current experimental method was all Mo Yao's idea. This was also one of Fong Yuan's schemes. On one hand, he was experimenting on Chang Jiyu continuously and attempting to find a way to restore him back to human. On the other hand, he was trying to get Mo Yao's will to think and expend her limited energy. Mo Yao was silent for a while before saying, "There is still a way, but it is quite dangerous. The person testing the gu will endure 3 times the pain as before. Most likely, he would die from the pain alone. He is a heavenly zombie, he is technically dead. How can he feel pain?" Fong Yuan was confused. "He is only half dead. The body is dead, but his soul still remains in his body. Unless his soul was absorbed into the door of life and death, then he would truly be considered dead." Mo Yao explained. The door of life and death was a secluded domain of heaven and earth. It was very famous and was recorded in. But the current era was different from the immemorial era. The life and death door had vanished, and after going through numerous owners, its control over souls of the demised had weakened greatly. This was the reason for the existence of monsters like zombies. Mo Yao's idea carried huge risks. It could shatter the person's soul due to pain, breaking into irrecoverable pieces. Once Chang Jiyu's soul shatters, he would be truly dead. Mo Yao urged, "Lad, when there is gain, there is also loss. The killer move has unrivaled attack power, thus the flaws will be extremely hard to get rid of. These few days, you have experimented so many times, and spent a huge fortune, even borrowing extensively from He tribe. I'm sure you understand the difficulty of this now. This is my final method, I cannot guarantee that it will work. Moreover, this method is extremely dangerous, there is barely a chance of success. You can decide whether or not to do it. Your son has already turned into a heavenly zombie completely, he has good battle strength. He listens to your words obediently, it is too wasteful to sacrifice him like this. I would suggest that you keep him by your side as a helper. Fang Yuan was silent and did not reply. Father, please rest more, I am not anxious. At one end, Chang Jiyu muttered. Fang Yuan concentrated and looked over, although Chang Jiyu had turned into a heavenly zombie, and looked very ugly, his eyes were crystal clear, showing great admiration and love for Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan smiled lightly, Son, I have thought of a good method. But this method is extremely dangerous, your life will be in danger. The success rate is very high though, thus father cannot decide. Sigh. In his mind, Mo Yao sighed deeply. Although Fang Yuan said this, Chang Jiyu who hated his current self and wanted to recover would only make one decision. The original appearance of this chapter can be found at N0V3L.B1N. As expected, once Chang Jiyu heard this, he hesitated for a moment before his eyes shone brightly, Lord Father. Please use this method, living in my current form is simply worse than death. Fang Yuan stared at Chang Jiyu's eyes intensely, but, you are my only child. Father. Chang Jiyu cried, he kneeled on the floor as he hugged Fang Yuan's leg, I cannot bear to part with you either, father. But son really cannot live with such an appearance, even if there is some bit of hope, I will work hard and fight for it. Fang Yuan was silent for a while, before sighing a long, deep breath, all right. Humans should live according to their own wishes. Father is unwilling to see you live in such agony as well. Go rest for a few days, father will go prepare. A few days later, we will go with the final try. A few days later. Ah. Chang Jiyu's screaming voice had already turned hoarse. Endure it for a bit more. Fang Yuan's gaze was warm, but his heart was cold as ice, as he encouraged. But the next moment, Chang Jiyu's screams and cries came to a stop. This was the 307th time he had fainted from pain. Humph, completely useless. Fang Yuan's expression was dim as water, he snorted unhappily as he stopped using the gu worms. This experiment had to be undergone when Chang Jiyu was conscious and awake, otherwise it would not work. Chang Jiyu fainting meant that his soul was already forming cracks and chips, he was at the brink of collapsing. Fang Yuan had to stop and use soul path gu worms to nourish and heal his soul. I said before, this method has little hope, it is better to preserve his life. In his mind, Mo Yao spoke in a sad tone. Fang Yuan snorted coldly, squinting as a cold light flashed across his eyes, one more try, we will try it one last time. Chang Jiyu slowly woke up, his vision turning from blurry to clear. He looked at Fang Yuan beside him, in his eyes, his father was extremely worn out and exhausted. This made his heart tighten as tears flowed down his eyes again in shame, he choked as he said, Father. Let's try again, don't lose hope. Fang Yuan laughed as he encouraged. Father, if I still faint this time, then stop trying it. Father, this was all my fault, you really need to take a rest. Chang Jiyu said. Yes, after trying this, it is really time to rest. Fang Yuan sighed, the precise deeper meanings in his tone were not able to be perceived by Chang Jiyu. First, 3 rank 5 gu worms were activated together. Next, more gu worms were added, these gu worms were all floating around the face of Chang Jiyu, some drilled into his skin while others mixed into his blood, flowing towards his heart. Ah! The intense pain assaulted him again, Xianxia gritted his teeth in pain, but he soon opened his mouth and growled, his expression twisting from the pain. Fang Yuan's movements were smooth and methodical as he continued adding in goo worms. The more goo worms that were added in, the more intense the pain Xianxia felt. He struggled desperately, his eyes rolling as he felt pain to the point of losing reason, almost as if he was becoming deranged. Stop, his soul cannot take this. In his mind, Mo Yao urged. But Fang Yuan acted like he did not hear it, continuing to add goo worms regardless of what was going on. Enough, this amount has exceeded all our previous attempts, he is really going to collapse. Mo Yao could not bear to see this. Fang Yuan snorted coldly, not saying a word. This is too much, if you continue messing around like this, he will really die. In his mind, Mo Yao's will protested. What can we achieve if we do not take risks? Fang Yuan laughed coldly, adding more goo worms until it was the limit. His eyes were shining with an excited light, just 3 more goo worms and we will see the effect. This is the first. Alright, this is the second. Fantastic, this is the final one, success or failure will depend on this. Fang Yuan's expression froze, the surrounding goo worms were breaking apart like the scattering of fireworks. Xianxia no longer struggled, he was floating in the air motionlessly. He was dead. His soul had shattered and dissipated from the pain. His expression, however, was very calm. The surroundings became dead silent. You've killed him. In Fang Yuan's mind, Mo Yao's will spoke coldly. Yes, I've killed him. Fang Yuan's brows lifted, laughing lightly, he did not die in vain after all, at least I got to find out how stubborn this killer move's flaw truly was. Mo Yao did not speak, she did not want to respond to Fang Yuan's cold and unscrupulous nature. She hid her form and vanished from Fang Yuan's mind. Fang Yuan's smile gradually vanished. He was progressively discovering how big of a threat this will of Mo Yao in his mind was. Did she know about the way to resolve the flaw of the 6-arm Heavenly Zombie King killer move or not? Did she know the method, but was unwilling to say it, or was she not thinking so as to preserve herself? Especially when this killer move's flaw is so severe, if Mo Yao's will attacks Fang Yuan's mind during the crucial moment and cause his thoughts to become chaotic, he would not be able to stop the killer move even if he wanted to. What was the goo used to create this will of Mo Yao's? These days, I have been collecting information on Wisdom Path, and purchased many Wisdom Path goo worms that could create wills. But I have not found any goo worm which can allow her to hide and completely conceal herself like this. This is such an unfathomable will. Sigh, I don't have much time left. Right now 88 Truyang building has formed about 60 floors already. He Lu Lan is attacking the 39th floor right now at full force. It seems his target is the wooden chicken goo. I have to work faster. I cannot wait anymore.